Welcome to the 36th episode of the Nerdom and Other Nonsense Anime Podcast. Today, we're going over the fall 2017 season's 7th and 8th week of shows. Just a reminder, we always include timestamps in the description of the YouTube video and the podcast feed if you need to only listen to a couple shows because you can't stand listening to our voices any longer. We also spoil everything, so if you just want to skip some stuff and go right to the show that you actually care about, that's fine by us. My name is Bcom, and six sheep, also with me is Leo. God damn it.
Tongue twisters are a good idea.
You know, my Audacity waveform looks really cool from saying all
probably
that.
Does now. What you were saying was sixth, sheiks, sixth, sick, sheep.
Oh, no, they got it, Leo. It was perfect. They definitely understood what I was saying.
Right, it does look cool in Audacity. But what's going on? Been going on with me? Rock climbing.
Awesome.
We got a really nice one here in town now, which is fantastic. I don't have to drive an hour outside of town to go to the closest one. It's 5 minutes from my house, which is even better. It's a bouldering gym. Bouldering is basically 10 to 15 feet high, and there's just padding that you land back on. It's not like top roping like the big long routes, but bouldering is what I like anyways. And just after like 2 weeks, like it's amazing how quickly my body's already changing. I think some of it's muscle memory too, but I used to rock climb at one point in time. But yeah, it's just so much fun, so much better. It's like one of the best workouts that there is ever.
Yeah, you're using so many different muscles when you do that.
You use everything, and yeah, I'm going to try to sell rock climbing on everybody here. The thing is, it's so when you go and work out now, what do? You go and you count reps, and you're usually pretty bored. Rock climbing is completely different because you have a route that's predetermined, and it's actually really engaging your mind because you're trying to figure out the best way to get up this wall, and then how you want to put your hands on there. So you're just not counting reps and stuff. So it's a really good puzzle for the mind. And like I said, you're using all your body as you go up the wall, and you're not sitting there bored, feeling your muscles scream at you because you're thinking about getting up this route. It's so hard. It takes a lot of your brain power to be like, all right, I got to move my foot here, and I got to angle it this way, and I got to shift my weight to this foot, and I got to keep this one hand on this one piece to keep me pulled into the wall. Then you get my other hand up here, and do I want to crimp it, or do I want to get this bigger hold? It's just all kinds of stuff like that. So then you get up it and you come down, and then you realize that you worked yourself over, and you're like, that's awesome. You had no idea you did it.
Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah.
And if you ever YouTube professional rock climbers, they're some of the most fit people you've ever seen. And sometimes they don't look like much, but then they go on the wall and you see their back flex, and you're like, holy shit.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Or if you were to grip their hands or something up close, if you were to shake their hand, you'd probably get your hand crushed.
Yeah, if they wanted to. Yeah. And there's little guys that look like nothing. They look like they would die. And then you see, they would never physically ever win a fight. And then they get on the wall, and then you immediately retract your statement because you're like, where's all that muscle freaking hiding? As a rock climber, the muscle's very condensed and packed tight, because they're trying to stay as light as they possibly can. So when the muscle develops, it kind of, tries
it's
to
not bulky.
Yeah, it tries to be as light but as strong at the same time.
Makes sense.
So yeah.
So that's what's been going on with you. I'll just say a quick thing. No spoilers. I saw Star Wars: Last Jedi. And I haven't talked about it much on the podcast, but I'm an enormous Star Wars fan. Maybe back in some of the gaming podcasts I talked about it.
We had a whole episode about Star Wars.
That's right, we did. Yes, I completely forgot.
You and Savage had a whole episode.
Me and Savage, and you were like, do the whole time. You're trying to derail the entire conversation, but that was a good podcast actually. So I saw the movie. I would say it's a 7 out of 10, maybe a 6 out of 10. It's all right. I have a lot of thoughts on why that is, but I'm not going to spoil anybody here. I will just say there's like a narrative going on. Like I've seen with a lot of reviews that like this movie did a lot of things different and took Star Wars in a different direction, which I completely disagree with in every sense.
Oh, really?
It is not a different kind of movie. If anything, it is more the same than The Force Awakens was the same as The New Hope, in my opinion. And I think I think things were mixed around and like jumbled up enough, like from like The Empire Strikes Back, that people were like, oh, it's a completely different movie now. But no, it's just like, just because one thing was at the beginning of that movie and is at the end of this movie doesn't mean it's different.
Yeah, I'll go see it. But
it was still like a good time in the theater, and there are like some amazingly awesome scenes in that movie. Like like there's some really crazy stuff that happens. But I don't know, like on the whole, I was a little disappointed. I wanted something more different than what I got, and a little bit better character development too is what I wanted. But yeah, anyway, that's Star Wars.
Okay, gonna talk about anime.
Si, senor. Okay, starting on Sundays. No, this is a Spanish podcast, Leo.
Yeah, sure.
Anime-Gataris, episode 7. It's called Miko Quits Writing. So yet again, the student council is like hounding the anime club. They just won't stop. They can't get enough. Telling them that they have to show off something that their club has created at this school festival coming up, or they'll be shut down again. So the club decide to make their own anime. Well, basically Minoa comes up with the idea, and everybody else asks her, like, do you realize how much work and time and money that takes? But they're just like, but she's like, I just want to do it because I'm excited. And so they do it anyway. So they all present their ideas for like what their anime should be. And like, there's a bunch of dumb ones, but then Arisu like, she like declares herself the supreme production commander, and then she shows like, I have like an idea, and she shows on a TV like a short anime PV of her in like a Gundam suit that's called Arusuborg Alpha, and apparently they're like, how did you do this? And she's like, well, Sebastian did it all last night. And he like shows up, he's got like huge bags under his eyes, like he's just been working like crazy all night to produce this anime. It's hilarious. But luckily, Koenji comes up with like a sensible idea for like a 3-minute long short anime. And even then, they hold like 45 script meetings in their planning phase, which this progressively drives Koenji, who's like the writer, just nuts. And at the 53rd script meeting, they tell her, you know what, let's just go back to the first idea. I think we've gone too far. And she just like loses her shit.
Not to mention they cover like every genre through every one, so it just keeps getting crazier.
So as like Minoa's trying to like rein in Koenji from like killing everybody, they crash into like a closet of the club room, and then there's these like image boards on the wall that the anime club of the past had drawn, and Minoa realizes that they remind her of the anime she saw when she was a kid. So they decide to follow that type of template, like something that's like that anime, and they assign roles. And Arisu is the character designer, Kai is like doing digital production, Koki is on audio, Miko is the writer, and the producer Erika is the producer because she was able to like convince Koenji not to kill everybody, basically. And finally, Minoa is going to be director because only she can direct since she had the idea. And Gomon Sensei, their advisor, is the production assistant who kind of gets named after the fact, but then has to like do the most work. And like for the rest of the episode is like basically like slaving away. So Minoa tells her family that she's like making storyboards for her club's anime. And her sister offers to play the role of cute girl A. And her dad, looking on intently, coughs when she says like she needs someone to play man A, but says it's nothing when she asks. So at this point, we're pretty sure something's going on, right, Leo? Yeah.
So my theory is her dad used to be part of the anime club back in his day. And the reason the student council keeps trying to shut it down is because of some old beef between the student council presidents, either their father or I think it's the principal that's making her do this stuff. So there's some beef between Minoa's father and the principal.
Yeah,
and I think that's what I think that's what goes down. And he just...
And yeah, but like the reason that she would have seen that anime in the past is probably because it was like the one her dad made with his club and like showed it to her when she was a little girl.
Possibly.
Or something. That's my guess. Because like why else would she have seen that anime? So anyway, so the episode does a good job of highlighting like the various compromises that different departments in an anime studio have to make to create something on a small budget. Like Arisu draws a character design with way too many lines, like for her like mech thing, and the producer is like, no, like we can't animate that, so you just have to simplify it. Like there's just no way. Go back to the drawing board. And Manoa has to cut some of Miko's dialogue out of the script to keep the pace of the anime like the way it needs to be. Like you just have to cut some parts of the dialogue to like move the story along, and like there's some parts of the dialogue that you just tell visually. So just like good examples of like, you know, compromises that studios have to make when they're adapting material. So they then record like the main dub for the anime with instruction from Koki, who's on audio, and like he gives a lot of hilarious like and like instruction, but like one of the best ones is like the little cat like mascot guy. He has like a speaking role and he's like, that was good, but can you be more cat like, please? And the cat's like super pissed off. Yeah, no. So yeah, the production comes down to the wire, and with 3 days to go, they're barely surviving on like energy drinks and fumes. And this is where the student council decide to be mean to them one more time, and they tell all the other clubs that have sort of been helping them out to just cut off all support. And then they say like, your screening is now going to be on the like huge track field, and if you don't fill up like all of the stands that we put there, your club will be shut down. And that's the end of the episode. So yeah, it's ridiculous. Yeah. Anything before we move on to the second part? It's kind of a two-parter. So. Yeah.
No, that's it. That's all I got.
So yeah, there's like a really fun joke at the start of the second episode, which is called Arisu Can't Make Enough Money. Yui, Manoa's friend, is doing her voice lines for like her character in the anime, which is called Yuirin, and she's shouting her lines Waga nawa Yuirin, and thinks like she should be adding more shouting even than she's doing to make it even better. And of course, this is a reference to Konosuba and Megumin, who always says Waga nawa Megumin. But it's made even better because when you realize the voice actress Rie Takahashi voices both Megumin and Yui in this anime, so she's just doing her own character, which is really cute.
That's about as meta as it ever gets.
Yeah, exactly. So continuing on from the last episode, Manoa takes a day to think about like what the club should do, because like they're not even sure if they can finish the anime in time with no help now. And her dad overhears her at home, and he's like, hey, take this DAT recorder so you can record short lines from home. And then he starts to get like really fired up about like how anime productions, they always go up to the last minute. And why do they do that? Why do they work so hard? It's for the fans. It's for the fans, guys. And then like his like Manoa and her sister are just like, whoa, dad's like really hyped about this. And he's like,
is this the episode where he's like a super otaku? Then like,
yes,
their mom's like, oh yeah, your father's an otaku.
Yeah, exactly. Mom's like, yeah, oh yeah, he's an otaku, and they're like, what? And yeah, of course, like it's revealed that he was the guy at Comiket on the loudspeaker who was getting the crowd like kind of pumped up. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so he was in that episode. That's where he was. So yeah, he gets a little too excited to record his man A lines, and then like Maya, Manoa's sister, just like slaps him across the face at one point, like to calm him down, and he says, "You hit me. Not even your mom has hit me." And then their mom comes in and says, "Come on now, don't lie, honey." Which is like, that line just wrecked me because the mom delivers it like so low key. It's so good.
Basically, he's abused by all the female members in his family.
Yeah.
If that was reversed, cute, I'd have a problem with it, but this is hilarious for whatever reason.
Yeah, it's freaking hilarious. So Manoa's worried because the club members aren't answering her text messages online. And it turns out that they were all working hard to salvage the production behind the scenes, of course, and they went out of their way to like redouble their efforts and get all the work done on time. So they also come up with a plan to fill the seats in the track field stadium by allowing like some of the other school clubs to discuss their own club's activities while the crowd like watches a club anime like related to that club. Like the ones they mention are like Ace of Diamond for the baseball club, or like Kuroko no Basket for like the basketball club, stuff like that, Prince of Tennis. So that'll get more people to come out. And Manoa's dad wishes her luck, saying like, believe in the me that believes in you, like Manoa.
Which is a very famous line from Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann.
Yeah, exactly. And it was funny because like the Amazon subs like translated it slightly different. They were just like believe in me when I believe in my daughter. So it was like something that wasn't exactly the same line. So I wasn't sure if he like literally said word for word believe in the me that believes in you, or like the translator just screwed up here and didn't know what he was referring to, which would be crazy. But anyway, so yeah, that's what he says. And he has like the glint in his eye, like Kamina. So it's clearly a reference. And her dad even shows up to the festival to disguise, in disguise, to direct like lines, like at Comiket. Like her sister invites all of her friends to the festival. Tons of groupies come out because of Koki, and because he's like a pretty boy. And then Bebe, the girl from Comiket, shows up again. And apparently she's just a student at Maya's school, Manoa's sister's school. So that's cool. She's not in like China, even though she's like, oh, I'm from China. I guess she's studying in Japan. So they end up filling the field, and they finish almost the entire anime production except for the ending song. And they decide, you know what, we're just going to perform it live. So the title of the short, which Kai, like right before, asks, like, are we really going with this title? is called Space Girl Magical Robot Travels to Another World, where she sings and dances, but in the end she ascends to heaven and the two are united.
This is like this Centaur's Life yes. Episode titles all over again.
Yes, God, I forgot. I miss Centaur's Life just for the episode titles. It was so much fun. So the screening follows that, and it is the most low budget student anime project you can imagine. It looks horrendous. It is so bad, and they make it look so bad and sound so bad in so many funny ways. You should just go watch this sequence of the episode.
And now this is where Bcom lists the genres for the that episode.
The genres?
All of them.
Oh yeah, every genre. Yeah. Yeah, one of my favorite moments is when like Arasu's mom can be heard saying the bath's ready in the background of her daughter's line as cute girl A, like just so you know, like they recorded it on the DAT recorder at home and like they gave no attention to any background noise. And so it's hilarious and it's ridiculous. And then at the end, of course, the girls do their live performance of the like the ED. And yeah. it's like the ED of the show. It's all animated in the style of Love Live.
It's flat out of the ED for the show.
Yeah, it's literally just the ED, and it's the Love Live style, like CG animation of like the three like idol girls, and like it's just hilarious in context now because like, oh, this is the ED. It's the Love Live girls. And so, yeah, the episode ends with the student council president making a call to this evil-looking principal, apologizing for not, like, you know, ending the anime club yet again. And after that quick scene, we just see, instead of the normal ED, we just see, like, a karaoke hallway. And we just listen as, like, the club's girls are singing, like, the ED song again. And then at the end, they switch over to, like, the next track, and it's, like, the Precure theme for a little bit. It's just really cute and funny at the end there.
Yes.
So, yeah.
The only thing I really want to add is they quit any subtlety with Konosuba at this point.
Oh, yeah, it's not subtle at all.
Like, they're not being subtle about anything, which is I'm totally fine with. It's pretty cool. But I've seen episode 9, and it's really good. I forgot to mention, like, Yui's character in the anime that they made, like, looks like just like a cartoon, like a 3-year-old would draw of Megumin. Like, it looks exactly like Megumin. It's freaking hilarious. Yeah. So they're having a lot of fun making this show. You can really tell. It's hilarious. Yeah. I don't know. It's really interesting, and it's just extremely informative about anime itself. Also,
yeah.
So I think that's really fun. Cool.
Yeah. You want to move on?
Yep.
I guess I got this next one. So on Tuesdays, we got Juuni Taisen. And this is the start of a two-parter. Episode 7 is called In Like a Dragon, Out Like a Snake, Part 1. Woo! This two-parter. All right, we'll get into it. So this episode, we start to get the backstory of Dragon and Snake, which we all really wanted. Okay. Twin brothers.
Did you have a brain fart there or something?
No, I just wanted to like take a pause because like nobody wanted this backstory.
Yeah.
Or if we did, we wanted it to be better than what we got. But the twin brothers who used teamwork in the past, they operated as like jewelry thieves, basically. But they were kind of idiots who like didn't even know the value of what they were stealing. They just did it because like it created mayhem and stuff, and they liked the challenge, basically. The warriors of Dragon and Snake have been a pair apparently for centuries. They always work together, and apparently these two, the ones that we've seen, have like the greatest compatibility in the history of them. And so their names are Takeyasu and Nagayuki, and they're surprised when they hear that like in the Juuni Taisen coming up, they'll have to kill to the last man, meaning that no matter how well they do, one of them is going to die. And they're like, I wish they had told us that sooner. And we learned that their motto is killing for money, basically. So they just kill for money. Besides that, the backstory of these two is just incredibly boring.
And it's an entire half an episode.
Yeah. And beyond that, it's incredibly poorly animated, like the entire time. Yeah, we see...
as I was watching, I'm like, what is this? Naruto with all the backstory? but I kid, Naruto is worse. Naruto has like almost entire arcs of backstory.
Yeah, that's true. So it doesn't go on for quite that long, but it's just like at the same time you're like wondering like why are they showing us all this backstory for these two characters, and why is it all so boring and irrelevant? And
like you said, it's not animated well at all. Like the animators are like, why are we fucking animating this?
So yeah, like finally when they get back to like present time, we see Rabbit like kill Snake as they arrive at the Juuni. Oh, this is still like earlier in the Juuni Taisen. It's still a flashback. We see Rabbit kill Snake when they like arrived at the Juuni Taisen opening ceremony, and like they had chosen to like go straight up the elevator. If you remember in the beginning, Boar was like, "Oh, the elevator's probably a trap. I'm going to go up the stairs instead." But they were just like, "Oh, this is probably a trap. Let's get in." So they just go like straight up, and that's where Rabbit kills Snake. And so they also like see Monkey. Like Snake is able to sense that Monkey was like a floor below. I don't know if that like makes any difference really. It's just something they showed to like show where people were at the time.
We already knew that Monkey planned those explosives, but I guess his special power was he could sense vibrations and stuff like that.
Exactly. So he could tell her down there through the floors. So yeah, the episode picks up a bit when Tiger, back in the present, faces off against Zombie Snake after having killed Sheep. And like she like chops off his like left arm.
Wait, did you say? Oh, killed Sheep. Sorry.
Yeah, she killed Sheep. No, maybe it's his right arm. She chops off one of his arms and also takes like the tank that is attached to his flamethrower away from him. And like, she's like, oh, it's full of alcohol. So she just like slices it open and just starts guzzling the whole thing down, just to get even more drunk. But she like grows disinterested in fighting Snake since he's like just a corpse, and she just leaves basically and leaves him alone. But at the time she leaves, Ox then arrives, and he just like instantly cuts off Snake's other arm. So now both of his arms are off, and this piques Tiger's interest, and she like comes back because for some reason she really badly wants to kill Ox. She does not like him. Personal
vendetta or something.
Yeah. So they exchange some words, but they're caught off guard when Snake's disembodied arms each start choking Ox and Tiger by the neck. Because like Rabbit can control, like even if like the arms are separated from Snake, apparently can control these like zombified like limbs. And they're in real trouble because like they're really getting choked badly. And so Ox in desperation asks for Tiger's help. Like he promises her, no matter what you want, like I'll fight you one-on-one. Like after we get out of this, like I'll give you whatever duel you want. And he just tells her like she's like, okay, fine, what do I have to do? And he's like, just keep foaming at the mouth like you're doing right now. And so she does. And then he takes his sword and throws it at the ground, like right in front of her face, which like creates a spark that lights the foam, which is alcohol filled, on fire. And so the like arm around her neck like catches on fire. And like, so she's like, we assume at this end of this episode that she'll be able to struggle free, though we don't really see that until the next episode.
Yeah, and then also we find out that Dragon's power is to fucking fly.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so you want to take part 2, which is like
Stop the cat.
Your best synopsis ever?
It's the shortest synopsis I've ever written. So it's episode 8, In Like a Dragon, Out Like a Snake, part 2. We open with Dragon being judged in front of a court for joining 2 different sides in the conflict and causing a large number of casualties. Snake has ditched the hearing, though, and there's really no need to go into what they did since it doesn't have anything to do with the Juuni Taisen main story itself.
Yeah.
And seriously, between the last episode and this one, the brothers got an entire episode and a half of backstory.
Yeah.
Duh. We do finally get to see Ox and Tiger escape the Snake's arms with the fire from the last episode, because then she like threw off her jacket and he grabbed it and then burnt it off on him, and they basically figure out that to stop the zombies you have to use fire, because Horse didn't come back alive either, because that's how he died, and the 2 arms seem to be down for good. And then Dragon finally has a plan, and he's going to start to enact it, he says.
That's literally all that happens. Like, yep. Oh my god.
Yeah, because like, the rest of that is just that backstory. And I just to summarize that, one was with these people supplying this hospital with a drug, and the other one was working with the hospital. And in the end, they just ended up killing everybody.
Yeah, and that's the part. Like in the beginning, I was like, oh, so these guys are kind of like shitty Robin Hood. Like they rob from the rich and then they give it back to the poor. Except when they give the money back to the poor, it always ends up being in like bad ways. Yeah, and then it causes more harm than good, or it ends up back in like rich people's hands or something. But even that idea is kind of scrapped. Like when the brothers take money to just like burn down this orphan hospital with all of the orphans still inside of it, in order to just like erase any trace of their client's involvement. And like they go and like talk to this one surviving orphan, and they're just like, oh yeah, we burned down your hospital. Like it's just like bragging about it. It's like, yeah, if your brother told you that like there are good people out there who do good things, like that was wrong. It's just like mean and like stupid. Yep. So I'm glad they died, or like I'm glad Snake died at least. There was also this one shot, like, so there's like, you talked about that trial. There's like a tribunal of 3 judges that I think Snake or Dragon, I can't remember which one, is appearing before. And like, there's just one shot right near the end of the trial where like he's looking at the 3 judges, and then they zoom out to a wider view of the courtroom, and there's only one judge. Like the other 2 judges are just not there.
I wasn't just paying that close attention.
Yeah, I wasn't really either, but I just noticed that one because it was like, no, there's 3 judges. Where'd they go? Like, did they like slink down in their chairs? Anyway, so this was a terrible episode. Like, oh man, like just like the continuity and like the visual, like the fidelity of this thing, like it has gone so far downhill since that first episode. I'm still committed to the show because I want to know who wins. Yeah, I want to know who wins too, though.
I'm going to keep watching it, but
it's gonna be Rat, like I guarantee it. But like, I want to know who wins too, so we'll see. But let's move on to a much better anime that Leo loves, which airs on Thursdays, and it's called Just Because. Episode 7 called Snow Day, or
Snow Day. You erased what I wrote before.
No, I didn't. This is here. It's still here.
History lesson and no facial expressions whatsoever. Izumi. I had scrolled away. Yeah, that's what happens in this episode. Boring. So, yeah, and then I'll get into it more when you get to episode 8. But I found out what really is driving me crazy about this show.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad. Okay.
We talked a little bit on Discord, but
yeah, we did.
I pretty much narrowed down.
Okay, so the opening to this episode 7, explains the end of last episode, where Mio was had seen Aina like hugging Eita on like a motorcycle from behind, So like Aina had been explaining that like photography club meant a lot to her as a place that she finally found that she belonged in, and that's why she couldn't give it up. And Eita was like finally agreeing to allow her to use his picture in the competition now that he understands like her reasoning and why she cares so much. And so that was what led to her like jumping on his back and like hugging him because like she's so happy she can use the picture finally. And that's like, of course, Mio saw her like exactly at that moment. And so Mio goes home that night and we get the first indications that she's starting to realize that she really cares about like who Eita is having fun with and that it's not her. So the next day is Mio's like national center exam, but a blizzard hits, which makes it almost impossible for her to get there by public transportation. And Eita like sees this on like the news and he's like, God damn it, why did this have to happen again? Because apparently he's used to always trying to save Mio like from bad things that just randomly happen to her ever since middle school. Like stuff just happens to her at the worst times apparently. So he runs to the train and finds her at the train station.
So yeah, this is where the problem starts. So like his facial expression changes absolutely not one bit from when he before the news story and after it happens. Like he's running like he should have a look of determination or something, but there is none of this. Like it just looks so out of place to me and it bothers me. Like his body language is just not there. And I want to say they do this with a lot of people in the show, with maybe the camera girl and Soma.
Yeah,
are really they actually, when they get really happy or really sad or really worried, their facial expressions change for that. This doesn't happen with anybody else in the show really, and especially Eita is the worst. Yeah,
Eita and Hazuki are like both like really low key people, like very reserved people who like keep their emotions on the inside. I agree. Yeah, he like Eita is definitely not your typical like romance protagonist in any sense. Like he's so laid back about most things until like, and even when he gets hyped up, like here, like we'll see that he's gonna smile in the next scene. It's like, oh, he smiled finally, but it's like barely a smile. Like I think you didn't even notice that smile. You noticed like a bigger smile in the next episode when he actually like open mouthed, like full teeth, like showing smiled for once.
And the thing was, it played into that scene really well. Like episode 8's probably. I actually enjoyed episode 8. I really haven't enjoyed any other episode. But so I think that was, well, I'll get to why when we get to episode 8.
Yeah, we could do that. So like, yeah, Eita finds Mio at the train station and like she had finally given up after like she'd gone to like the bus stop and like all these other places, and like she got knocked down by some like guy who was rushing, some older man, and like she was just like on her butt, like sitting down. She's like, I guess I'm just gonna give up now. And Eita smiles like and takes her by the arm and like to the train, which has now like resumed service. And so like he reassures her that like, hey, you're gonna make the test on time, since like they always start it late when there's bad weather. And she remembers like, oh, or she looks it up on her phone. She's like, oh wait, they are starting it late, so she's gonna make it. And she's like standing against the train door, and he has his arms like pressed on either side of her, like to kind of like keep her safe from the rest of the crowd on the train. It's kind of a sweet thing to do. And he asks her like some Japanese history questions, because that's what her test is about today, to just like calm her down. And so that works. And she's like, yeah, just keep asking me questions. And they kind of calm her down. They arrive with like 30 minutes to spare, and Eita gives her like a success on exam fortune. And she tells him like, she has something to ask him after the test, after all of this. And so as Mio is taking her exam, we see Aina also like going to a post office and submitting her photo for the contest. And later she runs... Yeah, good for her. Later she runs into Eita in like a bookstore, and she sees him now like full, like holding the entrance exam book for Suizan University. And she realizes like, wow, he's really serious about going to the same school as Mio. And Eita is kind of an asshole to her, asking like, hey, you don't need me anymore. What are you doing around me? Like, and like he basically just walks off as soon as he can get out of the conversation with her. And like this leaves Aina feeling like strangely queasy, she says. And so we get a brief scene of Hazuki's sister encouraging her to like dress a little flashier since she's going to college soon. That kind of like didn't go anywhere except till like the end of the next episode, I think.
Yeah, this next episode.
And then we get the ending sequence of the episode where Aina and Mio both see like other couples where they are, and they start to realize their own feelings for Eita. Like Mio sees like a chivalrous guy on the train and is reminded of how like Eita carried like a box for her in middle school, and like he like would always tell her like, you got the short end of the stick, like when like people would like throw this like manual labor on her in middle school clubs, and like she was like, man, actually you got the short end of the stick when we almost like were about to start going out, and then you had to move to Fukuoka in the middle of nowhere. And Aina texts Mio and asks like to meet up, and she tells her it's about Ada like when she arrives, and she asks Mio like, can I ask him out on a date? And Mio thinks for like a second and responds, no, you cannot. Which I was like, damn.
Well, then she needs to hurry up and step up and ask him out first.
Exactly.
That's what I say.
So let's get right into the next episode then, because this one's called High Dynamic Range, and I was like dying to know what happened after that conversation. So Eita asks Mio like what she wanted to ask him after the test, and she thinks of her encounter with Aina and says, don't worry, I got the gist of it. Which is like, Eita is so confused as I was. Like, what the hell does that even mean? I got the gist of what? Like, what? I assume, I don't know. I can kind of make assumptions about what she means, but I think you have to kind of take it for yourself, like what she was talking about there. Aina has lost sleep for the past week over Ada. So like a week has passed since that, and she just can't sleep. I also think she's lost sleep because she has this huge fat ass cat that takes up like 3/4 of her bed.
Why I started laughing right ahead. I'm like, good God. It is a fat cat though.
It is a big fat cat. It's really funny. Meanwhile, Eita, Mio, Haruto, and Yoriko are all at Hazuki's like huge traditional Japanese house that they're all like amazed by, and they're eating hot pot. And Mio talks about how she still has her real entrance exam in a month, and she's surrounded by all these traitors who all got a recommendation of a job lined up before her. But besides that scene doesn't go much of anywhere. It's just mostly like Mio noticing that Eita is not mentioning to anybody like what happened between them. Like she talks about how she got to her test on time, and like Eita is just like calmly sipping noodles. He doesn't like say anything about how like, yeah, I got you there or something like that.
And he ate all the noodles.
He also ate all of the noodles. Dude's got to eat some vegetables. Aina is like agonizing over sending a text to Ada because she still wants to ask him on a date, ignoring that Mio told her no. And her cat, whose name is Puta, which is, God, that's a perfect name for this fat cat, literally steps on the send button on her phone. Like she had typed something out and wasn't going to send it, and the cat just like puts the paw on the send button and like looks at her like, yeah.
Yeah, he does it completely intentionally too.
Yeah, this cat knows what's going on. And it sends a text to Ada asking like for a bit of his time tomorrow to thank him for letting her use the photo. Originally, she had wanted to text him like, do you want to go out with me? But she erased that and wrote this instead. So Haruto's grandma apparently saw Eita looking at the entrance exam book, so now he's on to him as well. And they have this big conversation on a bus where Eita eventually admits that like, yes, I'm studying for this exam because I want to go to Mio's first choice of school. And like Haruto asks Eita like, well, what are you doing about Aina? And like Ada's like, what do you mean Aina? What about her? And he's like, I've noticed you guys have really good chemistry together. And like once like they talk back and forth, and once everything is just like out in the open, they start like laughing about it all, and like Eita breaks out this like big like real smile that like Leo noticed like it's like the first time his like facial expression really changed drastically, and
it matched with what was happening in the scene.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and these guys are clearly really good friends, and I like the openness of their relationship and how they like they're not hiding anything.
My exact thing I said in my notes is, "Holy shit, he actually smiled."
He smiled a couple times in the last episode, but never nearly this big. Like this is the biggest smile we've definitely ever seen from Eita so far. Yeah. So yeah, Aina sends a text to Eita in the morning that their meetup tomorrow is a date. So act accordingly. So on his way to meet her, Ada runs into Mio, who asks him if he's going on a date with Komiya, or Aina, which she apparently pieced together somehow. I didn't really get how she pieced that together, but like just seeing him out and about and heading somewhere makes her suspicious. And they take the train together since they're headed in the same direction, and then it gets super awkward when Aina boards the same train car. This is a small town, guys. And so Mio just like, they like kind of ignore that Aita is even there, and they just hash it out. Mio's just like, I told you no. And Aina asks like, do I need your permission? And Mio responds, then why did you even ask? And Aina's just like, well, just because.
Oh, gosh.
The title drop. So Aita asks like, what are you guys talking about? And they both simultaneously say, it's none of your business.
I want to say I'm heavily rooting for Aina because she's the only one who's got some balls in the sneaking romance. So I really want to see her love life exceed, even if it has to be like a loser guy like Ada here.
I will always root for the Ainas of the world, and they will always lose. That's what I've come to find out from anime.
Yeah. Probably gonna lose, but
I agree. I totally root for Aina. I think she, like they actually have like real chemistry, unlike Mio and Aita, which is based on like things that they felt about each other maybe years ago, and it's been years since then. I don't know. I mean, you can argue for either couple, but
and honestly, Aita is probably not the best thing for Aina. I think she deserves so much better, but she's the best thing that's ever going to happen to Aita. I'm just putting that out there.
Wow. Okay. You've heard it here first. So Mio can't stand it. So she pretends like it's her stop, and she gets off. And like she gets off the train, she's like, where the hell am I? She just had to get off that train though. She couldn't stand it. So
yeah.
They go on their date, like Aina and Aita, and she spends most of her quote unquote date just like taking photos of like scenery and like these gardens that they go to. And Aita is like really kind of like entranced by her like focus on like taking photos, and he like sneaks a photo with his phone at one point of her. And so later she finds out about this, like they're on the beach, and she like snatches his phone away to see the photo, and then she sets it as his background and hands the phone back to him, and he's like, I don't know how to change this back. So it's just like permanently his background now. And Aina tells him, like, I have one last place that I really want to go before you leave. And she takes Ada back to the photography club room at their school, and she shows him a picture album of pictures that like she and her senpai at the club like took of the students at the school like while he was in Fukuoka, like the time that he missed. And like it puts a smile on his face to see these like pictures of his friends like Haruto and also Mio. And like it's so interesting because Aina knows that he like loves Mio, and so she's like showing him these old pictures of Mio. And it's like, it's interesting because it's like, you would think it's like going against like what she wants, but it's also like her being nice to him and like doing something nice for him. And so at the same time that she's like kind of like building up his relationship with Mio, she's also like proving that like she's like a good friend and like she'll be there for him. It's complicated. Yeah. So it does turn out that Mio is applying for Suizan because it's the school her sister chose. And her sister tells her she doesn't have to follow in her footsteps. And so I wonder if she's now going to study for an entrance exam for the school that Aita got a recommendation for. If she really is now going to be gung-ho about being with Ada, maybe she'll do that now. I don't know. It's interesting. We'll see what happens. But Aina presses Aita about Mio. And he tells her, like, if he could bring himself to confess to her, he would. But studying for the exam is all he can really bring himself to do right now. And Aina tells him, in that case, if I win the photo competition, I'll confess my love for you. And then she just runs off. And that, like, actually takes Aita's, like, breath away for a second. Because, like, of course, telling someone you're going to confess their love for them ahead of time is confessing your love for them. Like, she just confessed her love. Yep. So that was very cute. And yeah, that's the end of the episode.
Yeah, and I think why I like this episode so much, I even liked an episode was probably because Aina had a ton of screen time.
Yeah.
And she makes the show progress. I feel like when she's not on screen, the show just like slows way down. But then when she pops back up, it speeds way back up again. So
for sure. Yeah, she's Yeah, she's definitely my favorite character. I think she would probably be most people's favorite character because she does make things move in this show. Mm-hmm. She's like the catalyst for so much of the stuff that happens. So anyway, that's about it for that one. If you want to move on.
All right. Inuyashiki, The Last Hero, Episode 7, Shion Watanabe. So, after murdering all those people last episode, Hiro returns to Shion's place and goes straight to bed. We see him still crying at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
The next morning, Hiro remembers when he saw somebody jump in front of a train and how he hadn't had any reaction to it. Shion, showing concern, goes to Hiro's room and says, only if they could catch the killer soon, and why does all this have to happen to you? He then sits up and says he's the killer and explains everything to her. Even how he died and was brought back to life. And of course, she's doesn't want to believe any of this, but he's basically forcing it on her. He also says when he talks about the man he saw jump in front of the train, he felt like he saw a light and knew that he had no choice but to kill people with his own hands. I was like, okay, fucking psycho.
yeah, pretty much.
So he sees a light when he kills people and he feels it's good. All right. And the more that the people resisted that he killed, the more alive it made him feel. Hiro then tries to cut his arm open, but the blade breaks, showing Shion he can't bleed anymore. Shion is still not convinced, so Hiro opens up his back and she says, it's just a magic trick you saw on TV. He then takes her outside and has to literally fucking fly her up into the sky as she's just bawling her eyes out and snot's going everywhere. While he has her up there, he slowly begins to let go of her, but she starts screaming, don't leave her and her grandma behind, while bawling her eyes out. She just keeps saying it over and over. And this confuses Hiro, and he decides not to drop her. Shion keeps begging for him to stay and stay with them forever. And so he says he will stay with them forever. Shion then lays some guilt on him, and Hiro says he will from now on save the lives of people which are about to die as his atonement. But like you said, he also said he will save as many people as he killed, which kind of leaves him a loophole for killing more people. But then he goes and he saves way more people. So
so I'm not sure. Yeah, we'll see what happens. I had an aside about that scene where they're flying through the sky. So as Shion was scream crying, I was like, I've heard this scream crying before somewhere. So I was like, I need to look up this voice actress. And of course, it's the voice actress for Nina from Rage of Bahamut, Virgin Soul, who did a lot of scream crying in that show, which is why I recognized it. Yeah. That's awesome. So the voice actress is Sumire Morohoshi, sorry. And what was funny is I wonder if she's getting typecast as the girl who falls in love with an extremely flawed evil guy because she's done that 2 shows in a row now. Yeah. And I was also wait, and she's also flying over a city with this evil guy in the big love scene. I was like, whoa, she's really getting typecast. But anyway, it was just a funny line to draw.
That is a very eerie coincidence if she's not basically being typecast for this person now.
Oh, man. So anyway, you can move on. I just thought that was hilarious, though.
Yeah. We now meet a Miss Nakaoa who is working her butt off and looks very gaunt and sleep deprived. Her boss has lunch with her and he discovers that she has cancer and has progressed to the point too far for surgery to even save her life. It's metastasized. She has no family and only her mother, who is ill and in the hospital. She also has no boyfriend. So her life really fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Like I've said before, this show will do a really good job of getting your feelings behind a character. They'll make you hate Hiro in 5 seconds. It makes you feel so bad for Inuyashiki, that very first episode. So they just did it again. Just a sign of good writing. She goes to walk in front of a train, but can't go through with it. She then goes into a park weeping openly and saying over and over she wants to live.
There's 3 kids playing in this park, and they point at her and are like, "Ah, you ugly bitch!" And I was like, "Fuck you, kids! What the fuck is wrong with you?"
Yeah,
God.
I really wasn't sure what happened next, but she posted online or saw an ad about wanting to be saved or something like that, and then she goes to an empty lot, and that's when Hiro shows up. So I guess they made an appointment. He does his thing and tells her to go get checked up tomorrow and tweet that if everything is okay. She's then cured, which surprises the hell out of her boss. And then there's just the next couple scenes of Hiro healing multiple people. Shion is super happy about this. And, it's just like you see the two kind of connecting together. But then we also, in passing conversation, find out it's been 2 months since the murders stopped. So he's been healing people for 2 months, basically.
Yeah.
And hiding out at Shion's place this whole time. We then end the show with Hiro flying Shion around and telling her he will cherish her forever. We then immediately cut to Grandma farting a really big one.
Like, Grandma lets loose. Like, Grandma had been holding that one in since, like, 1947 or something. Like,
while the three of them are, like, having dinner together, and, like, everybody laughs, and, like, Shion's like, Grandma, and Hiro's like, that's kind of funny. And, and it's just that plays out a scene as, like, a one big happy family. But then, as they all lay asleep that night, SWAT team troopers in full tactical SWAT gear drop down on their balcony. Cut.
Yeah. All right, so that goes right into the next episode, which is episode 8, called Mari Inuyashiki, which is the name of Ichiro's daughter. So, okay, I'm going to present this episode as I was thinking about it, as it was, like, happening, because, like, I know things, like, get cleared up later, but holy shit. So,
dude, I started writing my notes, and I realized these are going to be, like, insane spoilers for you, so I just wrote holy fuck times 3.
I'm really glad you did that, because I did read what you said before I watched.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm really glad that you didn't write anything too early. So if you thought that episode was nice and, like, a development between Shio and Hiro was very interesting, I would agree with you, like the last episode. Unfortunately, I'm here to inform you that the show decided to throw all that shit away. At least
they built it back. They built it up so they could tear it back down.
Exactly. So the SWAT team enters the house, right? And just, like, Shion, like, sees them and she yells out to Hiro, like, run, Hiro, run. And then you see the SWAT team, like, pointing, like, an assault rifle at her grandmother, who has her hands up. And then the SWAT team just shoots both of the girls, like, riddles them with fucking bullets. And, like, just, like, their dead bodies are on the ground, basically. Or at least almost dead bodies. And then Hiro is like, what the fuck? And he's able to escape with both of the girls over, the grandma and Shion, over his shoulders. And, like, he, like, it blows up the apartment as he jumps away into the night.
And he also killed all the SWAT team, too.
Yeah, killing the entire SWAT team. And I was like, man, so, like, fuck all that character development with Shion. Like I said, like, a couple episodes ago, like, man, if they kill Shion, I'm going to be so pissed off. I don't even want to watch this anymore. But that was if Hiro had killed Shion, at least. But, like, I was like, at that point, I was like, oh, I guess they just wanted Hiro to return to being a villain, so they'll just kill these two, I guess. But anyway, all right, so more happens with that later. But Ichiro's family is watching, like, a newscast saying that a fairly large asteroid is on a collision course with Earth now, and it'll cause enormous damage. So everybody's, like, freaking out, like, what are we going to do about this asteroid? And I think
this is some weird setup that they don't talk about the rest of the episode.
Exactly. It's like, we know this is going to come into play later, like, probably in the climax of the show. So... But the show has finally decided now, in episode 8, to focus a bit more on Ichiro's family, which I've been asking for a while. So we see his daughter, Mari, talking with a boy from her class named Oda, who really confused me because he looks exactly like Ando, like very similar anyway, like maybe a little better looking, which made that scene a little bit confusing as I was trying to figure out, like, is this Ando or is this somebody different? It's not Ando. It's a different kid. And this kid's father... wait, what?
Well, that makes it really...
Yeah, it's really confusing.
What? That makes another scene that comes up really...
Yeah. Because his name is Oda. Like, I went back and rewatched this and I'm like, so they introduced another kid who has almost the same name and looks almost the same.
Then I ask, what was the point of her talking to that kid?
So I think the point is that his father is a famous manga author who's published in Jump, this Oda kid. And she's like, oh, are you going to write manga too? And he's like, yeah, I'm going to apply for, like, the new Jump Young Writers program. She's like, God, you're so naive. Like, you rich asshole. Like, you think you can just write manga because your dad did. And, like, when she gets back home, she, like, tells herself, like, I'm going to, like, make both that father and son, like, bow down and kiss my feet. Like, she wants to be a manga author too. And apparently he just, like,
Oda's
resents him.
In the character thing in my anime list. Jesus. All right. Nah, I'm over that shock. Just keep going.
Yeah, it's weird. So after school one day, she's shocked because she sees her father walking around with Ando, and she decides to tail them. She imagines like what could be going on, and she has a wild imagination, and she first thinks like, well, maybe Ando is like being set up for like an arranged marriage with her, and she's like, that would suck. And then she imagines like her dad at the dinner table just saying like, actually, I like young boys, and like Ando is like the young boy he likes, and then she imagines like, well, maybe he's like an illegitimate child of my dad's, in which she's like, no, my dad couldn't do that. So she has like this crazy imagination, and eventually Ando and Ichiro like get tracked to a hospital, and she goes up and she's like looking around the corner of the hallway, and she sees her father and Ando go into a patient's room, and she starts to get the idea of what's happening when she leaves, and like she starts hearing like people say like, oh my god, you're back, you're alive, and she Googles like the miracles of people being cured, and she runs after her father a little bit more, and she sees them go into an alley, and he like blasts off into the sky as he usually does. And she sees this happen, and like all of her suspicions are confirmed that like her dad is like this hero guy. So Ichiro gets home, and Mari is getting yelled at by her mom for getting bad grades. And her mother is surprised to find out that Mari wants to write manga for a living. So that's what that scene about was kind of about. Yeah. And Ichiro supports her as long as she graduates from high school, which makes Mari kind of really happy. Like, also Mari doesn't like out Ichiro to their mom at all. Like, she keeps it all quiet. But she's happy that her dad is on her side. And then the show drops a bombshell as if it's absolutely nothing, which just completely shocked me. There was a little bit of foreshadowing of this. Shion and her grandmother are still alive. They did not die in the SWAT team attack, because when Hiro flew away with them, he like held their hands a little bit. And I was like, I thought he was holding their hands. Like, the film language to me was saying like he held their hands, but there wasn't anything he could do. But what really happened is like he healed them, and then he left them because he was so upset that he brought like danger to them.
Yeah, man, I was with you. That scene played out like they were dead, because then he joined their hands together and flew away.
Yeah. So
I thought they were dead, and I was just like, what? So that when this scene popped up, like you said, just out of nowhere, I was like, whoa, they're alive?
I was like, what? Because, oh man, it was very weird. But I'm kind of like, in the end, after all of the shock, I'm happy they're alive, because like Shion is maybe my favorite character right now. I don't know. Like, I like the way that she is making Hiro be a more complex character because of his feelings for her, and like becoming his family that he really needs, even if he does need to just go to jail at the end of all this. But I don't know. I'm glad they're alive, but it was just really shocking. So obviously Hiro healed them, blah, blah, blah. And they move into a new apartment. They have all these like boxes that they can move in. I don't know how they got boxes of stuff, because like their old apartment was like blown up. So I don't know where all these boxes came from. But there's just a lot of stuff to assume that went on. Like, I thought that was like the whole development of that situation, I felt like had some missing connective tissue, is what I said about it. Like, it just felt like it was a little too sudden, and it was like you were supposed to assume all that stuff happened and that they weren't dead. But anyway, I'll move on. Meanwhile, Hiro goes to the police station and just starts leaving a river of police behind him, like dead police. He tells an officer, like, you were going to come after me anyway, so I just saved you the trip. And he says he's going to make it so in Japan's entire police force can no longer function. He's going to leave this like one police officer alive to watch him do it. And so like he goes to leave the police station, and outside there's like a riot squad and a sniper who are waiting for him. And the sniper actually gets like a pretty good shot in, like on his head, which like knocks him down for a minute. And then like, you know, all of the riot squad come up with their machine guns and like just riddle him.
It's really intense.
And so he gets knocked unconscious, actually, and his systems have to do like a reboot. And eventually he activates the same automatic laser defense system that Ichiro did in that scene with the Yakuza. And it like lances out and shoots all of these police officers like through the body and stuff. And like everything is just left like dead, except for like that one police officer who he decided to leave alive, who just like he like bangs his fist on a police car like, no. It was just kind of funny, like the way it was just like a little over the top. But Like, yeah, he's like, and Hiro tells him like, oh, you thought that was it? No, I'm not done. He's going to continue just killing all of the police around Japan, apparently.
Yeah, this murder spree scene is actually quite long, but it looks and is done really well, I thought.
Yeah.
Like, this is like, it's putting Juuni Taisen to shame, which is doing a good job of doing it to itself. But like, like you hear a battle show, you know, like Juuni Taisen, and you expect some battling, and then you watch something like Inuyashiki, and it's just killing it at the battle scenes. All the battle scenes
I would agree. Actually,
wow.
Yeah, there's pretty crazy gore in that police slaughter scene. Like, yeah, it gets pretty dark.
Oh yeah, really, really dark. Anything else?
Just like, yeah, I don't know, just basically what I said already, where I don't think it's good like film or like good directing when your audience is just like surprised and confused that these two characters that were like so plainly dead are alive. But I guess that's what's possible in this world of Inuyashiki with these guys who can just like heal injuries. So I don't know.
Well, that we've already established they can't bring the dead back, but
yes,
as long as no matter what the injury is, as long as they're still breathing, they can heal them. So they must have both still been breathing, even though Grandma shouldn't survive 8 bullet wounds.
And, it's funny. Shion kind of reminds me a little bit of I can't remember her name, but the girl Lisa, I think from Terror and Resonance or Zonken no Terror, who like teams up with like the two terrorists because like her life is so empty without them that like she, even though they're doing like bad things, kind of like evil terrorist acts.
Yeah,
like,
I never finished that, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, I just feel like Shion is like, it's so weird that like she would hear all of this about Hiro and then still say like, no, I want you to stay with my grandma and me forever. And it's because she's like so lonely without him. Or like she feels like he completes their family, that even though he's like the most evil bastard ever, she still wants him by her side, which is just, it's an interesting thing. I don't know if it's like believable. I guess it kind of is, but yeah, I don't know. I like that her character is not dead. I'll just say that. It makes the show more interesting. But anyway, we can move on to the next one. On Fridays, we got Recovery of an MMO Junkie. Yes. Leo will perform the OP now.
Dude, I love that OP.
It's good. All right, so episode 7 is called You and I and Me and You.
Oh, I should see if I can get our buddy Kyle to play that on his guitar sometime. Should be pretty easy.
Yeah, you could probably figure that out pretty easily.
We can make Savage do it. That's right. He's a music
make
guy
them
too.
both do it and see which is better. So Yuta is now paralyzed by the fact that he has fallen for Moriko, but still hasn't revealed his identity to her inside of the game. So he like can't really do anything now. Playing with her has become like incredibly nerve-wracking for him as he can't decide when or if he should tell her the truth. In the game, Lily and Hayashi hang out in their usual tree, and Moriko starts relaying the details of her date to him, or to her. Like as she, whatever, it's so confusing. Never mind. But gives all the credit to the glasses-wearing girl she met with the night before their amazing advice. So like, because Moriko is pretending that she met with a girl, like because she's a guy, or at least she pretends to be a guy to Yuta. So she's saying, "Oh, I met with this glasses-wearing girl," which is really Yuta, the glasses-wearing guy that she actually met with, and he knows all this. So he sees through all this now, and when she's praising him, he realizes that like, oh wow, I really made a difference to her, and like she really cares. And she says she realized like she really likes that person mainly because they reminded her of Lily. So yeah, now he's like, oh crap, I really need to tell her.
There's a lot of that. Yeah.
So for some reason, I was kind of upset like Yuta didn't use that chance to just tell Moriko who he really was. He's still conflicted. And afterwards, Homare calls up Moriko for advice at getting started in an MMO. However, she doesn't reveal that she plays a guy online to him, and she makes a new female character because she's like, oh, he would probably think that would be really weird, because she's still very self-conscious about playing a guy online. And she makes a new female character that looks like a support that she used to play in her last MMO. This cute girl with like blue hair. like long flowing hair, and her name is Molly. Funnily enough, Homare makes a female avatar named Harumi in the game. And it's just like this chick with like huge muscles and huge boobs, and that's his character. And so they instantly bump into Kanbei and Nico from the guild, who they help Harumi figure out how to use party chat, because he's just like speaking in all chat and like letting the whole server know. And Moriko feels bad about hiding her true identity from her friends, so she whispers to them, like, she whispers to Kanbei what's going on, that, like, it's her and she's just a new character. When Yuta gets home, he gets an email from Homare showing him Moriko's new character, who he recognizes from the old MMO. Yuta does, meaning that they must have played together back then. Somehow Kanbei can realize just from looking at Harumi's character model that it might be Homare, who he has seen in the convenience store before, which was like another thing where they're putting things together like a little too fast for me. But I was like, okay, fine. I guess in this MMO, you can see who people are from the way they talk, I guess. I don't know. So Yuta remembers back to why he originally started playing MMOs, and he liked the fact that he could pretend to be somebody else. He liked buying cute clothes for his female avatar, and he really just overall enjoyed the anonymity of everything. But like that's all gone now, because like everybody kind of knows who he is. And he also remembers back to the friendship he had with that blue-haired girl, Yuki, he called her, in the last game. And
what are the coincidences that you play two different games with the same person and not do it intentionally?
And fall in love with them both times.
Yeah, I'm just... like, you're really stretching here.
It's really stretching a lot. And so like he feels like he's daydreaming that Moriko could possibly be that same person, but it's still like nagging at him. And at the end of the episode, Homare says his Sakurai-san is going to join them in the game, which causes Moriko to flip out a bit with the realization that Yuta Sakurai is in her game and is a character. And so, yeah, that's where the episode ends. And so finally Moriko is going to find out, which I'm very happy about. But
I just got no input for that episode. The character... that blah 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 made was pretty funny.
Yeah, I think this episode's goal was to give us like some insight about like where Yuta's character was coming from, like historically. I just wanted like a little bit more backstory, I think, though. But like, yeah, I was sure that we would find out about his relationship with Moriko in the previous MMO, but I would have liked to understand his reasons a little better for like why he plays a female character and like why he's romancing like a male avatar as a female character. I feel like they kind of just glossed over that and said like, oh, he likes to buy cute clothes.
Yeah, and they don't even talk about it in episode 8.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe we'll get more of that going forward, but I doubt it. But if you want to get into episode 8,
it'd be nice to know, but I don't need it.
Yeah.
So episode 8, one step forward, we learn that Yuta is adopted. And when he was adopted by an elderly couple, I guess. And when his mother passed away, he inherited the Sakura Corporation. And they don't go into what it was. He just inherited it.
Mm-hmm.
But around the same time is when he started playing MMOs, because it was his safe zone, as he called it. We then get to see the two of them meeting in that earlier game. Where is that name? Nanter SG is the name of that game that the two met in.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they, we get to see them meet and play together and stuff like that. We also find out Moriko plays the game only on the weekends because her job stresses her out. And then one weekend, she suddenly never logged in again one day. So now Yuta, back to the present. Yuta made a new character in the game, also to play with Homare. He joins up with the rest and says his name is Hearth. His character is ironically framed after his character from the other game because he's already kind of figured out who Moriko is from that game. But he gets kind of off-put when Moriko doesn't seem to recognize his character, who he made the image of, like I said.
For the dumbest reason.
Yeah. But the interesting thing is he did it in English, so she didn't really get it.
Yeah, she couldn't read the name, so she couldn't recognize him, I guess. Yeah.
The two get in a conversation about MMOs, and Yuta says he used to play a game called the Nanter SG. Moriko also asks how you pronounce his name, and she suddenly remembers playing with somebody like him from another game. What do you know? Moriko does start to realize she might have feelings for Yuta. She does end up giving him a call to see if he knew a character in non-SG named Yuki. He promptly says yes, and she's just like really shocked, but then she gets like really happy and giddy about it. And
yeah, it's really cute. She's like rolling around on her bed and she's like smiling really big.
Yuta finally decides he has to tell her he is Lily, and as he does, his phone fucking dies.
I was like, are you kidding me? Because like Moriko finally calls him to confirm, and like I thought that whole scene was really sweet until the phone died, because I was like, please God, at this point I was screaming at my TV, just tell her you're Lily. Just like, can we move past this whole thing? Anyways,
a day or two pass, and they run into each other on the street, and Moriko gets like all flustered around him because she's like, I don't have any makeup on, I'm wearing crappy clothes, and she's hungry. She gets a sandwich, and two end up sitting on a park bench. And Moriko brings up the topic of Lily, and like it seems like he's just going to let it slide and not happen.
Yeah.
But then he finally, the very last scene, the very last word spoken in the episode, he confesses to her that he is Lily. End episode.
End of episode. So that's the bombshell finally dropped. You don't even get
Moriko's reaction. You just her looking at him like, what?
Yeah. So I'm very curious how she's going to react to that, but who knows? It's Moriko, because there's no way to know how she's going to react. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I'm interested going forward, but yeah, man, they really drew out like her finding out that he's Lily for as long as they possibly could. So man, I mean, I assume they're going to end up together, but I wonder if she's going to be like upset that he didn't tell her, like, or if she's going to ask like, how long have you known that we were the same people, and why didn't you tell me, and blah 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 blah. Or I don't know if she will do that though.
Yeah, or if instead he breaks out and he's be like, I don't know why I kept it a secret from you for so long when I figured it out, or something like that. But
something like that. Yeah.
But I've seen a screenshot from the OVA, so.
Oh, I saw a screenshot on Twitter from the OVA too. Damn it, Twitter people, always spoiling.
Don't ruin stuff. Yeah. All right, you ready to move on?
Yes.
Okay, Kino's Journey, The Beautiful World, the animated series. Episode 7, Historic Country. Kino remembers when he was training with her master, and her master turned the tables on her. It's this really cool scene with like her cooking, and Kino peeks around the corner, and then kind of goes back around the corner, and it takes a deep breath, and then steps out and points the gun, but she's suddenly gone. But then she's like next to her with the gun, so it's really cool.
Yeah, Kino's master is a badass.
Yeah. And also badass and a hard ass and not give two fucks. Kino also remembers a story. Her master told her about a country with a tall clock tower. Supposedly it's somewhere near them currently. We then go all oldie timey wimey with like it in black and white, but then it switches over to like that sepia tone when they get in town. Mm-hmm. Her master's name is Shisho, who is traveling with another man in a car that she refers to as her student. The country that they arrive in has a huge police presence, and as you would guess, they are corrupt. Student has been arrested. He went out to get supplies or stuff like that, and he got arrested for, as the police say, trying to sell illegal drugs, and Shisho is brought in to try and get him out. She asks for mercy, and that as punishment, they exile him since they are just travelers. But the officer wants a bribe, and Shishio can't offer him enough to satisfy him. Shishio doesn't care and says she will leave her student behind, but she wants to have some final words with him. The officer denies her request, but she writes something on a piece of paper and uses it to hide a gold coin as she slides it his way. She gets to see her student, and the officers basically like flat out admit that they planted the drugs on him and shit. So fuck these guys. Student specifically wants Shishio to sell his trunk that he has never opened and that he originally bought for 434 silver coins, which he heavily emphasizes on.
I definitely got what that meant too. Like before they went to the next scene, I was like, okay, I know what's going on.
Yeah, so she leaves, she gets to that case he was talking about. There's a combination on it, it's 434, and inside she finds a silencer, a plastic knife, wire, and a capsule full of poison. All of these things for assassination. She kind of wonders what he did before he became her student.
Yeah.
So Shishio leaves the country, and the officer says not to let her back in, and decides it was good to make their prisoner work 20 years of hard labor. As you would expect, Shishio infiltrates the country with the gear her student provided her. She starts a shitload of garbage campfires and uses the distraction to free her student and the two dress up as police officers. They then raid the weapons locker, and then the provision storage, and they go up to the top of the clock tower to make a final stand. Then it starts getting kind of comical.
Yeah, it's pretty great, actually.
So the two then only injure all the officers, and they don't kill any of them, just shooting them all in like the kneecaps or the shins and stuff like that every time the police try to storm them. And then they basically just start fucking with them whenever they try anything. Mm-hmm. The officers keep trying to negotiate, but the two aren't having any of that crap. Psychologically wear these people down to the point on the third day when they try and negotiate, they have lost all hostility towards them and just open the doors for them to leave. They refuse, and the police officers resort to waving the white flag and begging them to leave. Shishio is still like, how much will you give us to leave? So she's making them pay them to leave.
Yeah, exactly.
She just will
turning
not
the
stop
tables
fucking with them.
Yeah.
So, and it's just all these funny scenes because every time the officer tried to negotiate with them, she would like shoot like his helmet off or something crazy, or shoot out all the lights. It's funny. Mm-hmm. Back to the present with Kino and Hermes, then arrive at this town and they find the clock tower. At the clock tower, they find a monument dedicated to the two heroes that saved the country from its corruption. It turns out she made the government so goddamn ashamed themselves that they changed their entire ways. And there's this old man telling this story, and like he notices he has a limp. He asks him, he's like, so I see a lot of the old people walk with limps and a cane. What's that for? And he's like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's funny because I think he has his granddaughter next to him, and he doesn't really want to say that he was one of the soldiers that got kneecapped.
Police officers. So yeah, that was kind of funny.
So yeah, this cute little episode about psychological warfare. Like basically just like, not really like warfare, but just like how you can like psychologically like wear down an opponent. And like use their own fear against them, like use their own like media against them, like because like there's like newscasts going on and that tells them exactly what the plan is from the other side, and they can pay attention to everything they say. And so
I think a really stupid overlook of the country.
Yeah.
What police force announces when they're going to do a raid?
Yeah, that's dumb.
What?
But I mean, like, they probably have to say, like, we're going to do something about this because, like, the public is probably, like, an outcry that, like, their main public square and, like, their main monument is being overtaken by these terrorists. Like, so they have to say something. But it's interesting just how Kino's master uses this against them.
Yeah, and like I said, she just, oh, God. Like, there's even a point that, like, Hermes makes Kino think that his master's there, and, like, he slams on the brakes and, like, turns around, like, where, like... Something that actually makes Kino afraid is her own master. She's just that much of a badass.
Yeah, for sure. So you want to move on to the next episode?
Wait, I think it was the first episode where we got any fan service. You got to see Kino's master zip up her little jumpsuit.
She did look very cute in that jumpsuit. Yeah. She's a very sexy looking woman. I would give her that. So episode 8. Country of Radio Waves. Speaking of fan service, wait till the end of this episode. The trio of T, Shizu, and his dog companion Riku, they return for this episode. So it's another one that's not focused on Kino. The show opens with Shizu explaining to T how he, like, his philosophy about being a traveler. Like, he likes to help countries that he visits by learning about them and then doing what he can, basically, which is what Kino typically ends up doing too most of the time. But though sometimes Kino stays more out of it, it seems like Shizu's philosophy is more about getting involved and like really helping. Meanwhile, T is just like eating like what looks like a JPEG of a slice of pizza. Like this pizza, she's like has this pizza like hanging in front of her mouth, and she's just like eating the tip of it, and it just like slowly is like being moved upwards in Photoshop towards her mouth. It didn't look fantastic. The pizza looked good. I would eat that pizza, but I don't know. It didn't animate very well. Their first day in this new country that they come to leads Shizu to the conclusion that it's pretty much a normal country, which is kind of rare. Like he says, like even accepting immigrants as long as they find employment, which is really rare. Most people in the countries he's visited don't accept immigrants or have like a much harsher process for accepting them. On the second day, though, they run into a guy. They're like getting gas at a gas station, and this guy starts walking across the street towards them, and he's just soaked with blood, and he's got bloodshot eyes, and he's carrying like a girl's head in his right hand. So like a severed head. So like clearly maybe things aren't as normal after all. And it turns out the victim was a student at the academy where this man worked. And so Shizu goes and talks with like the head of police of this country. And they say, like, we're not charging this man. Instead, we're going to send him to get treatment. And he says, like, you have to understand the history of this country. It used to be there was slavery here. And the rulers of the country were able to control the slaves by inserting machines, he calls them, or basically like microchips, into their brains that could control the slaves' actions without their, like, free will. And slavery was like abolished a long time ago, and like the rulers like disappeared, but they're like they say there's still people that have machines in their brains, and they're still being controlled by these radio towers that are around the world that they've not been able to turn them off because the radio waves apparently get really thick and like will like drive you mad before you can get close enough to them. So Shizu's like, okay, how about I take this job for you and I try to like fix this. And so, because he doesn't believe what they're saying, because like generations have passed since slavery was abolished. So how would people's brains get implanted with these machines anymore? He believes it's just a false belief that they continue to propagate.
Jeez, man, are you not up with your conspiracy theories? I mean, radio waves making people crazy is a real thing, Bcom.
Look, I'm not listening to Alex Jones's radio show every day. God damn it.
That's not true at all, people.
No, it's clearly chemtrails. It's chemtrails, Leo.
It's the chemtrails.
So yeah, Shizu and T, like they go out to a radio outpost, and they find one, and it's completely destroyed and like dilapidated and like overgrown. And it looks like it hasn't been functional for decades. And they take some pictures as evidence, and it's funny because like every picture he takes, he has like T and Riku get in it as like a scale, like objects, but they're very cute. So he comes back to the town, and the police...
more importantly, it acts as like a timestamp.
Oh yeah, also a
as being
timestamp.
Current. Yeah.
That's a good point. I didn't think about it in that case. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Otherwise, he could just drug up these photos from anywhere.
Exactly. Which they still think he does, because when he returns back, the police and the public are gathered in like the town square, and Shizu like reports what he found. He gives them the pictures, and despite all that evidence, they don't believe him, and instead accuse him of being possessed by the radio waves. And they're like, we need to take you to a highest hospital and isolate you. But like T's like, I'm not having any of that shit. T goes off, she grabs some woman's baby and holds a grenade next to its head with the safety pin pulled out. And she's like, you're not taking us. Like and Shizu's like, T, you really shouldn't do that.
Dude, Shizu's reaction, he sees it and he's just like, here we go again.
But after he tries to calm T down for a little bit, he kind of just realized like, wait, I can play into the crowd's paranoia about these radio waves. And so he turns to the police officer and is like, yeah, actually, you need to let us out of this town because the radio waves are getting to us. And if you don't let us leave, who knows, we could kill everybody here. And like Riku like picks up on this too, and he just starts howling like a wolf for like added effect, which is really funny.
Pretty cool.
So yeah, T swaps the baby for the police captain, which is Shizu's idea. Like, we'll take him hostage instead of the baby, and we'll drive outside of the country, and then we'll let you go. So they get outside. He lets the captain go, like unties his hands, and he says, like, before they leave, though, he decides to lie and tell him, by the way, we found a new radio outpost, and its output is set to maximum. We were lying to you.
Maximum.
Yeah, we set it to maximum. So starting tomorrow, everyone in the country should be driven crazy. And he says, like, okay.
I said within the next 3 days.
Something like that. Like, very soon, like, everybody's going to lose their minds and, like, go crazy. And so, like, it's interesting because, like, Riku asks him, like, so do you think, like, they'll realize when things don't go crazy that they were wrong about the radio towers? And Shizu's like, I don't know. Maybe they will. Or maybe they'll just kill each other. He doesn't say that, but like maybe what this is going to do is like cause everybody like mass hysteria. They're going to all like start killing each other, even though they're not controlled by radio waves. Who knows?
It makes you wonder if he's even going to go back and report on it, or he's just going to stay quiet himself, and then by the third day, there's like been no killings.
Exactly.
It might be the start of change they needed in that country. So
could be.
That's my take on it. They leave it very open-ended.
The last little part of this episode is called A Day in T's Life, and it is just cuteness fan service, like all through and through. Yep. Like almost entirely. It's like she spends a day with Riku while Shizu is out. Like they're in a country where there's a high crime rate, and he's like earning some money. And so like she wakes up and like she like doesn't really know how to like function in society. So Riku's like telling her like how to eat like a croissant with jam on it, and like how to like, I don't know, do a whole bunch of things like the right way. They go out for a walk, and at that point, like they walk pretty far, and she makes a point of just like stepping on her shadow. And like Riku asks her like what she's doing. She's like, well, she's just like, oh, I just had to step on my shadow to make sure like they wouldn't come after me or something, or like something like that. And so they go back, and like later Shizu is talking to Riku when he gets back home, and like T's like asleep. And he thinks like, oh, this is probably related to her experiences in the country that she came from, like making sure to step on like black figures, which maybe is related to the robot AI who ran her country, that ship that kept moving.
Definitely is. I mean, they were described as they had what the like the beak mask, and then they just had like a black shroud over them. So,
yeah, I guess that was
clearly who they were talking about.
Yeah, it must be what they were talking about. I didn't remember them being called black figures, so it was like, what is that? That's a weird translation. So, but yeah, that's the only thing that can make sense, is that like she's still kind of traumatized by what happened to her as she was growing up. But yeah, like, so it was like a little bit like he keeps like hugging Riku throughout the end of that episode. It's like just very cute, like little girl fan service with her dog. I don't know, which was kind of funny, a little out of place, but like I was like, whatever, it's fine. But like at this point in the show, like these past two episodes, like while they were okay, they weren't like mind blowing in any sense. Like, and I don't think they were quite as good as some of the other episodes earlier in this series either. Like that just made you really think. So at this point in the show, I like kind of want to just say, like, if you're enjoying this show, like go back and watch the first season, because like so many of those episodes like really are like profoundly thought-provoking episodes. Like not just like, that's interesting, but like, wow, that like I really need to think about that for like a few days and like process that and think about like what would I do in that situation. So I hope we get a couple more episodes like that before this season ends, but it's been like a little bit hit and miss, I would say.
Cool. You want to talk about two other really cute girls?
Hold on, let me just dab. Okay, there we go.
All right, Girls Last Tour, episode 7, Labyrinth / Cooking. I love this show. And just as the title suggests, the girls are lost in a labyrinth of pipes. The first problem is that she is afraid of heights, and there's a pit beneath the maze of pipes. They are only going this way because their map says there's a ration station ahead. Commits lots of encouragement from you to Chi and jokes.
Pretty much.
Chi eventually, like at one point, they tied a rope. They tied a rope to each other's waists, connected to the logic that if Chi falls off one side, you can fall off the other and they'll be okay.
I like you, who's just like, you're just trying to take me with you, aren't you, if you fall off?
Yeah. And they can't find these arrows because they were given this what was her name from last episode?
Ishii, I think.
Yeah, Ishii told them, there was a ration station that way and that there were signs and everything. And they can't find any of this. They don't know what she was talking about. Chi eventually falls through a weak spot in the pipe and goes inside of it. And it pulls you along with her since they're tied together. Inside the pipe, they find a path with lights and arrows. So they had to leave their cat and crad behind, and it does a shot of their cat and crad, and if they had just gone down the stairs, they would have gone into the pipe.
Yeah, there was like a blatantly obvious like entrance to this pipe that they just avoided completely.
They completely missed it.
I will just say before we move on to the next part, like there's this one shot where they look up at all of the pipes, and it looks so much like the old Windows 3D pipe screensaver that would like build out like spiraling pipes in all these ways. Like I can't remember if it was like Windows 95 or whatever Windows it was, but that screensaver is like burnt into my mind from seeing it so many times in the past, and like it just looks exactly like that. I was like, oh, it's the Windows screensaver.
So after a philosophical discussion about how if you had clear direction in life, whether that would be good or not, you got any input on that? I mean, it's a whole philosophical discussion. So they're basically asking, do you need direction in life, or is it better for you as a human individual to have it be random sometimes?
So I was like, when you and she were having that conversation, especially like, so they're inside the pipe, right? And they have arrows, and like you is like, well, this is boring now. Like now we don't know, like we can't explore. We could go through that exit. I so hardcore agreed with Chi when she was like, we will die in like days if we don't get food. Like we need to follow the goddamn arrows. What are you talking about? I was like, okay, Chi, you are my spirit animal right now. Like in other situations, like sure, oh yeah, let's like explore a little bit and have fun, but like we need to get food and survive. So in that situation, I was on Chi's side.
Yeah. But it's, yeah. I mean, like we said, each episode tends to have something like really philosophical about it, which is really cool. I like that stuff.
Me too.
So they exit the end of the pipe and come to some hallways that leads them to a growing area with only a single potato left. They decide to search more and end up sliding down an air shaft duct. You, at one point, almost shreds Chi in a giant food shredder.
For like, she turns it on to see what the button does. And by the way, it threw me off that like there's a red and a green button, and the red one is the one that starts it.
Ass backwards.
The green one is the one that stops it. So like she starts it, and like Chi is like running, like trying to get away from the food shredder. She's like, you turn it off. And then like she turns it off.
This food shredder.
Yeah, it's like a huge shredder. Like it would really like rip her apart. And like, so you turns it off. And then she turns it back on again. And she's like, Chi, you know, you would only have had to run to the side to get off. So that was another little commentary about like taking the path like less traveled, like thinking outside the box and exploring, not running like straight. It's basically, I thought this was a sick burn on the movie Prometheus, actually. Where, you know, like the ship is crashing and they're running straight away from it when they could just run to the side. Yeah. It's the same exact thing.
Honestly, if we want to do it like a deep dive, I could easily do an hour on each episode, because there's like you just said, like they revisited that same discussion they just had. Exactly. Yeah, it's just really awesome. Yeah, but like she turns it on that second time and just lets it keep going. So what happens is they end up finding dehydrated potato flakes, and they decide to try and bake them. They also found like some sugar and salt that they could add to it, and they think they can make their own rations. In a large pan, they mix all the ingredients together, knead it into a dough. They cut it into ration squares and bake it in the oven. They actually turn out really well. They bake more than like you makes like shapes with them. She makes like the fish from that one episode. She even makes like one of each of them that you see after the credits. So like when you watch the credits, you know, it's like ba 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 ba. Then stay for the after credits because they're awesome. Yeah, it was a nice little moment. And it just, again, shows that like you is like more creative, like she doesn't care about food in just like a sense of like, oh, this is just going to make me survive. I think it's either in this episode or the next episode that she's like, what is the point of living if we can't eat food? Like, so, that's how much she cares about it. If we can just revisit Just Because real quick, because I was because when I think up arguments, I try to defend both sides, which ultimately in the end always makes your one argument way better. So I was like, all right, I have a problem with the facial expressions. So then somebody would be like, all right, well then Leo, what about Girls Last Tour? They barely has facial expressions. Oh, I disagree with that. They're like constantly making weird expressions. Well, Chi isn't, but I want to say Chi specifically, but then I want to say, okay, that's Chi's character. All right, that's one thing you can say that's Ata's character, but Chi is completely complemented by you. So I feel like that makes it okay. And even then, you know, Chi still has her moments and stuff like that. Even if they're very subtle, I think they're good facial expressions. And And then perfectly, episode 8 happens.
Uh-huh.
Titled Memories/Spiral/Moonlight. The girls seem to have now found what I would consider a personal storage locker in a facility the size of a massive storage shed area. Yu opens one of the drawers and like finds a radio, though the girls don't know what it is. They look in some others, and all they have found in them, they really random stuff. Empty ammo shells, a scrap of cloth, a button. The girls sit around and for a bit and reminisce about the people they have encountered on their journey. This finally sparks Chi to speculate the area they're in is something like a graveyard. They just didn't notice at first, but all the lockers have names on them because it's really tiny. The things inside the drawers were placed there so people would remember them. She also tells you she needs to put all that crap back that she took.
Yeah, she basically says, like, if we don't put it back, it loses all meaning, which is an interesting philosophical idea. Like, if you take these things like that were mementos away from the people who's like we're trying to save them, they just lose all meaning. They become like worthless. So
that button just becomes a button, not a button with a memory attached to it.
Exactly.
Yeah. They also find one of those statues again.
Yes, they take more pictures.
Yes.
Oh, awesome. I forgot the cookie that, the ration that you had made of Chi is like her face, but with that statue's eyes, which was hilarious.
Yeah, with the eyes looking to the side. Yeah. Looking to our left, but the statue's right.
Exactly.
Yeah. The girls then find a very large tower that spirals up. They go upwards in a spiral for so long that Chi becomes dizzy and almost drives them into a hole in the path. They can't go forward anymore, but notice a path that goes beside them on the outside just around this hole. They're really worried it won't support the chitin crab because, I mean, that thing, what do you wonder where that thing lays?
It's got to weigh like a ton or something, probably. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, at least
1,000.
Yeah.
They make it around and inside barely in time as like this whole walkway is collapsing around them, and like it's really it got me like sitting straight up in my chair like, oh my god.
I thought it was funny because like Chi was like freaking out so much that you had to like lean forward and like just like jam on the accelerator.
Yeah, just grab her hand and throttle that thing to get around.
Yeah.
And like Yu's not one to get shooken up, but man, even after that experience, she's like out of breath and just like, I can't believe we're still alive.
Yeah.
That was a very intense moment. The girls search the area for like supplies once they finally get to the top. And Yu comments that she feels invigorated with the full moon out, which is actually, there's something strange about that because there's evidence to support that like, for whatever reason, there's like spikes in like crime and like people being more daring and stuff when there's a full moon out. So there is some evidence behind it. What that is, who knows, but it's just kind of cool. They find a room with a large square holes in the ceiling, and Yu like goes crazy with the moonlight power with her stick.
Yeah.
She's just like running around smashing everything,
including Chi on the head, of course.
Yeah, getting Chi on the head finally in the end. Also, the show is doing this like cool thing that happens with a full moon and a fresh layer of snow on the ground. If you've ever experienced this, it basically causes the nighttime to be super bright.
Yeah.
Like, it's so bright, if nobody's experienced this, you could read a book outside at 1 a.m. if there's a full moon. Because that
the
white
light is reflecting off the white.
Much.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah, living out in the country, dude, like, it had been woken in the middle of the night because it's so bright through my window. That's insane. Yeah. So Yu's smashing wasn't proven completely useless when they find out that one of the boxes she smashed contained 3 bottles of some kind of yellow liquid. Chi reads the bottles and it says Beru.
Yep.
A little English there. I like that. It was a nice touch. They pop one open and give it a try. Surprisingly, the girls liked it. So I was like, man, this must be like a really good brand. I love beer now, but I'm going to be honest, nobody likes their first taste of beer.
That's true, yeah.
It's an acquired taste. They drink 2 bottles, and as you would suspect, the girls get drunk and they get really goofy and do like a bunch of cute stuff. And
yeah,
then,
it's
like,
pretty cute.
It's just screenshots of the girls goofing off and humming a song, and like they're dancing. And Chi, it says like a total flip of her personality. She's just like super go happy and lucky, and like she tackles you, and like it's like they portrayed how when some people get drunk, this is what happens. So it was awesome. And then of course the next day Chi has a headache.
Also, as is par for this show, like remember when they're dancing drunk, like they keep showing a shot of like there's like a hole like right next to them, and then they start dancing next to the edge of this like platform. So like even when they're happy moments in the show, there's always this like tension of like, oh shit, are they gonna fall into that hole because they're drunk, or are they gonna fall like 1,000 feet to their death because they're dancing at the edge? Yeah, like it focused on it just a couple times, like very like subtly. And,
I was just focusing on those two so intently, and like I was caught up in their giddy and happiness because man, this is one of my favorite duos of all time.
They're really fun. Like, and I was gonna say, like, I didn't get as much out of this episode as I did some of the others in the series because it's not like as philosophical or as deep, but I just still enjoy spending time with these characters. With that
tower, like life is a spiral or something like that.
Well, yeah, that you was saying, like, she was making an analogy to their own lives. Like, you know, we wake up, we drive around, and we go to sleep every day, and we do it over and over and over. It's just like this spiral tower where we go around and around and around and keep moving, but we're always going around and around the same way. So yeah, it was like a little like commentary on like life, but at the same time, it was like, it's not too deep this episode, but just the characters are so much fun.
Yeah, I said it last time we recorded. I was like, I could just watch an entire 20-minute montage of these two just driving around in the Kettenkrad with the backgrounds and the good music, and I would enjoy the shit out of the episode. Yeah,
for sure. It's becoming definitely one of my favorite series of this season, and maybe of the entire year, actually, the more I think about it. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, and we'll move on.
So, on Saturdays, we've got the Ancient Magus Bride, and episode 7 is called Talk of the Devil, and He is Sure to Appear. So we see Renfred, who's being pushed up against a wall in a back alley by this little silver-haired psycho sorcerer, the little brat. And the sorcerer scolds him for not getting the corruption as he was ordered to. So he had ordered Renfred to go after this corruption. Alice asks Renfred, why do you listen to this sorcerer at all, since like he's the one who took your arm? And Renfred just says, don't worry about it, I will protect you, I have a plan. But Alice isn't so sure. Meanwhile, Elias has begun teaching Chise more magic, mainly in the form of brewing concoctions. She's really starting to remind me of like the path that Shirayuki took in the show, like Akagame, Shirayuki Hime, or Snow White with the red hair, like brewing things all the time, and with her short red hair. So there's such similar characters. However, they leave home soon after this brewing scene, because the church has asked Elias to go. There's a new like black dog at this church, which is known as a church grim, and it's a type of dog that protects the church's graveyard from like spirits and like evildoers and stuff. And so Elias is asked by the church to see if the dog has hostile intentions or is just like fine. Chise asks Elias, like, why do you do business for the church? And he says, like, oh, I made a mistake a while back, so they keep an eye on me. And he does some errands for them to maintain some level of independence from, like, their prying eyes, basically. And Elias gives Chise a ring that will slow her production of magic and hopefully extend her lifespan as a slay beggy. So that's interesting. Like, he says, like, I'll come up with a better solution later, but, like, this is the best I can do for right now to hopefully, like, extend your life. Because slay beggies apparently die because they produce so much magic and absorb so much magic. So this will slow that process down. He also wants to assign Chise a familiar, a creature that will feed off of her magical energy and support her. But they don't have an idea on what that would be yet. They arrive at the church and they find this police cordon and a crowd gathered around a dead body. And Chise goes to look for clues, and Elias says this might get a little complicated, but like look around and see what you can find. So she finds in the graveyard this corruption all over the place, and she's attacked by this like black spider lizard demon woman thing with a mask. It's hard to describe what it was because it had like legs like a lizard, but it was kind of like a spider. I don't know. So she, like, this demon tries to eat her, but she's saved at the last second by this tall, dark-haired man with red eyes, who is obviously the human form of the Church Grim dog. So the dog man is, like, really badly wounded, but keeps saying the name Isabel, and wants to, like, push through it. And Alice shows up at this point and tells Chisei she's taking the dog. And Chisei's like, no, I'm not going to let you take him unless you give me, like, a good reason. And Alice is like, no, just give me the damn dog. I'm going to take it. And Chisei, like, takes some, like, sleeping potion she had brewed earlier and throws it at Alice's face and, like, puts her to sleep. So after that, once it's calmed down, we find out that Church Grim's name is Ulisse. At least that's what he used to be called. And Isabel was his little sister, who is now dead. Chisei resembles... Wait, what?
He refers to her as his little sister, but he was a dog.
Well, he was a human, though, they say.
No, he was a dog.
No, he's a human that turned into a dog. That's what they say in this episode, anyway.
Turned into a human.
I completely disagree, because like they say either in this episode or the next one that he went through a transformation recently where he became a dog. Like he just awoke to his dog form recently. That's what
I think they meant back to his dog form.
That's possible.
All the backstories, the flashbacks, he's a dog.
Yeah, in all of the flashbacks with his sister, he is a dog. That's true. If it is his sister, if it's not just like somebody he was taking care of.
I think he just calls her his little sister. That's just whatever.
All right, confusing translations aside. Chisei resembles her like the girl Isabel, so he feels more at ease around her. And when Alice wakes up, Chisei has like tied her hands behind her back so she can't do anything, but like isn't doing anything to her beyond that. So like they sort of start chatting, and Alice explains that she and Redfred were ordered by that bratty sorcerer to obtain Ulisse as material needed to create a chimera. And Chisei asks Alice, so do you love Renfred? Like she can tell like she has feelings for him. And she says that like nothing good has ever happened to her since she was born, but Renfred took her in because of the little talent that she had, and she'll do anything for him, basically. So there's a very strong parallel to be drawn between her relationship with Renfred and Chisei's with Elias. And Chisei thinks to herself that she couldn't go on if Elias kicked her out. So like, yeah, she doesn't know exactly how she feels about him, but like she has to be by his side, like, or else she couldn't go on living at this point. Elias shows up and surveys the situation, and he can tell that Ulisse only recently awoke as a black dog, at least that's what he says, and won't be any trouble. And Alice tells him about the bratty sorcerer and that his chimera is responsible for the wounds to the body at the church and to Ulisse. As Alice is explaining to Elias what the kid sorcerer looks like, Ulisse senses something, and Chisei knocks Alice out of the way, like kind of dives towards her, and just as soon as she does, like a huge green thorny like praying mantis leg plunges through Chisei's chest, just goring her straight through. Shoulder. And by the way, that's the end of Ancient Magus Bride. Chisei's dead. It was a pretty good series while it lasted.
I think it was a shoulder wound, actually.
Yeah, I guess it misses like her heart. Like it's like high up on her like left shoulder that this goes through her. But I was like, damn, that's pretty wrecked. But actually Elias gets pissed and transforms into this huge monstrous like Pila Borealis form before the episode ends, and that's where it cuts off.
Yeah, so this is where in the manga stuff starts getting really cool. Like I know there's a vampire thing that's going to happen soon, and I really like that little arc.
Let me just say, I have seen some screenshots on Twitter of this vampire, and I have some things to say.
I think I saw you post something.
We'll see. I haven't watched those episodes yet, but oh my god.
Yeah, but they were just being true to the manga, and it's fantastic.
Well, the manga got horny, let me tell you.
Well, the vampire is portrayed as like a sex symbol, so
okay. Yeah.
I mean, I don't fault it for that. So obviously, you're gonna. If it's portrayed as a sex symbol, you're going to animate it as a sex symbol.
I guess.
But I'm really glad we got to see more of Elias's true form, because it is super cool. I love the design of it.
Yeah, he's like huge. Yeah.
Yeah. He's not called Thorn or whatever for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So anything else you want to add?
No, move on to the next one since it continues straight away.
Episode 8, Let Sleeping Dogs Lie. Elias engages the giant praying mantis and quickly bites off one of its arms off. Ulysses, meanwhile, puts his head to Chise's, and she gets to see some of his memories of his past. She gets to see one happy moment with him in his dog form sitting next to Isabel, next to a river, and he does something goofy to make her laugh because she was feeling down. It's kind of funny. But then we also find out that she died because she got hit by a carriage. And when they buried her, Ulysses never left her grave and eventually turned into what he is now after he died, still waiting at the grave. So this is why I'm pretty sure he had to have been a dog.
Yeah, so maybe he was a dog who awakened to become a church grim. But at some point he said we were humans. I don't know. So I'm a bit confused about that. But yeah, whatever. Yeah.
So back to the present where Elias finishes killing the mantis and says Carta Felis to the boy. This angers him, and before Elias can charge in and finish him off, Chisei steps in and stops him. Suddenly, Red Fred shows up and puts a bullet into the back of the boy's head. He also says he put a spell on it to stop regeneration. Elias is surprised that Chisei isn't afraid of him in his beast form, so that kind of caught him off guard. And then suddenly the boy out of nowhere gets up and says he just wants the dog and summons another monster that has the upper body of Isabella.
Yeah.
Chisei finds out that the boy was responsible for that cat incident a couple episodes ago, and it gets her super pissed. She's so pissed. She gets that Dragon Ball power-up effect going on around her, there's wind lifting the hair and all that crazy shit.
Yeah, I think it was her ponytail headband that just snaps because her hair starts flowing out. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, then they do this really quick flashback of Elias explaining to Chisei that she can do anything with magic. For example, turning rocks into gold and making fish swim through the sky as some examples. But you really shouldn't, do things that affect the rules of the world. Chisei's magic turns into these black wasps and starts walking towards the boy. Elias tries to stop her, but her magic eats away his arm instantly. He recovers and then finally wraps both... He regrows his arm super quick, and he wraps both his arms around her and covers her face with her hand and gets her to stop this time. And he says, "You must not change the rules of the world." Then out of nowhere, a blue flame surrounds everybody but the boy, and they're transported away. The boy says it's a fairy spell and sends his creature out to find them. What it was a will-o-wisp that transported them away and gives Chisei a coal to help her feel better. The wisp then turns Ulysses back into his dog form, and he becomes Chisei's familiar from now on. The boy and his monster show up, and Alice immediately shoots off his arm that apparently was Renfred's at one time. Ulysses, being powered up now through his blood pact as a familiar of Chisei's, wrecks the shit out of the boy's monster. He's just one swipe, just rips the top half off.
Yeah.
The boy ends up leaving, saying his name is Joseph. Elias says Cartophilis was possibly cursed by a god to never die, and he just wanders, feeding his curiosity. And then we just basically finish with Chisei rename Ulysses to Ruth.
Ruth, all right.
That's it.
So it's interesting, Chisei has clearly been reading up on magic because, when she went to make Ulysses her familiar, she knew, the exact incantation and everything. I was like, man, she's learned a lot, apparently, because, that seems like something that would be pretty niche. She just found out about familiars, earlier last episode, but suddenly she knows how to make someone her familiar. I thought that was, a little fast there, but, one of the interesting things I found about this episode is that the Will-o'-the-Wisp is once again voiced by Akira Ishida, who was Yakumo from Rakugo Shinju. So he's really getting around this season, voicing a lot of little characters that are interesting. And I could hear it in his voice as soon as he started talking, even though he's doing a little bit different thing than he usually does as the Will-o'-the-Wisp.
Yeah.
Also, Cartophilis, when he heard the name Ruth, definitely reacted a little bit. He was very surprised to hear that specific name. So I'm wondering what that means.
When was that said? I missed it.
It's when Chisei is literally naming Ulysses Ruth, because Cartophilis is still there, and he's witnessing this ceremony when they're becoming familiar and master or whatever. And
I thought he was already gone.
I think he was definitely still there, because when she said Ruth, like cut to his face like with a surprised look. So I don't know what that's supposed to mean. Like I'm kind of interested to find out if that ever comes into play. Otherwise, like this show is like, I still like think that the pace of this show is a little slow, but it's definitely like following the manga like bit by bit, so it's fine. And it's interesting still. It's not like it's boring or anything.
It's spot on with the manga.
Mm-hmm.
And god damn it, Antonio Brown just got walked off the field for a leg injury.
Oh no, fantasy football. Oh boy.
Yep, I think I'm gonna lose this matchup for the playoffs. It's sucks. Okay. Mitsugi's out.
Poor Antonio Brown.
Yeah. All right. Not to get caught up on that. Did you get caught up on Blockade, Battlefront, and beyond?
I basically did. Yes, I am exactly caught up now.
Nice. Then we can start with episode 7, Brachial Blues. How are you liking it so far?
So, I did say to you a little bit before the podcast that like, it's a Studio Bones show, and that means it's going to look fucking incredible. It looks awesome. Like at all times, it always looks good. Like every frame, I'm like, oh my God, this is so good looking. Why can't Bones animate something like this, like that I like a lot? Because like this show, while it's like enjoyable and it's wacky and it's crazy, like I just wish, I prefer anime that are more like non-episodic, like linear storylines that are trying to like really tell you something. And at times this show is doing that, but like, I just don't really love the characters as I have in other Bones shows in the past. And so I'm just like sitting here watching this and like, or sitting like watching like Concrete Revolution from a couple seasons ago. And I'm just like, Bones, like, please just like adapt some material that is like
that show.
Yeah, just adapt something that I like, or just like get a writer who knows how to like write a cool story like that's not like completely batshit at all times. But anyway, I'm still enjoying the show. I'm having fun with it. So
all right. Well, I'll continue. So we start off the episode with Zed gasping for breath as two figures in trench coats walk away. Then we cut the intro. Leonardo has managed to book their New Year's party at a famous bar and informs Zed that he can finally be introduced to everybody.
The fish guy.
Yeah, fish guy. Oh, my mouse is frozen. Awesome. Nope. All right. It unfroze.
Good for you.
Yeah. Zed. Stop fucking everything up. So, yeah, anyways, he can finally get introduced to everybody because it really hasn't been yet. We also find out the company spends a lot of money on Zed because of his special needs. Yeah. He has his own like holding water tank, and like because he has his gills, he has to have like a special thing that attaches to him. And like Zap is complaining about this, and Zed heard like the whole conversation. So he eventually goes out and tries to find some jobs. Then we get a short scene where we see a girl who wears some super fancy headphones discussing business with her bodyguard / driver. It appears she is very important and doesn't hesitate to have somebody killed. She also really likes her headphones and punishes her driver for interrupting her song that still had like 0.3 seconds left.
I like this girl. I get this girl on like a fundamental level. I love headphones.
Oh, man. So Zed's trying to get a job to help pay for his bills, and every place he goes he gets rejected for just various reasons. Racism, it doesn't even matter. A lot of his rejections, like I said, is because he's a fish/human hybrid. He remembers his and Zap's previous master, who taught them both the blood magic that they use, that even if he leaves his tank, so like this is when he's basically somebody's collection, and the old master showed up to like burn down the mansion, but he has that conversation with Zed at first. He remembers him being told that if he leaves his tank, that it might still be hell for him regardless.
Yeah.
So anyways, after all his failures of jobs, Zed gets drunk and wanders back home. And the girl we saw earlier passes by him in her car. She notices his life support system he wears, and she recognizes it as some like headphones called Sennheiser Mark Zero.
Clearly supposed to be like Sennheiser headphones, clearly. Okay.
Mm-hmm. She wants to go back, but she can't because she has a meeting with the Queen of England. So instead, she tells two of her agents to negotiate with the man, and if he refuses to sell them, kill him and take them anyways. There's the two dudes go, and there's like a brief struggle, and they take his life support system off. So of course he drops to the ground and starts gasping for air. Zap, Leonardo, and Chain are out looking for Zed. I love Chain. And when they come across him like passed out, like they're riding on the scooter and she's just sitting on top of Leon. I think it's Leonardo.
Yeah, just sitting. She's always just like standing on somebody's head or squatting on somebody's head. It's hilarious.
Yeah. So they come across Zed and they get him back into his tank. And Leonardo noticed that the flyer from the New Year's party was taped to his tank. So that makes him decide he is going to go and get his life support system back. Leonardo uses God Eyes to find out who the culprits are, but suddenly a crisis comes up and everybody leaves to go take care of it. Leonardo decides to track down the culprits himself, but then suddenly Chain shows up to help him. Leonardo and Chain are staking out the building when Chain Googles the place and finds out that the company makes some of the best weapons out there and are a big deal. Suddenly Zap shows up and just charges right in. They try to stop him, but he just charges in anyway. And then he quickly takes out one of the men in trench coats, and we see him crash into a window where the girl from earlier is talking to the Queen of England. So like these are like, they have like cyborgs and all that stuff. But then Chain does her invisibility thing, and Zap continues to completely wreck the cyborgs. The girl is surprised when she turns around and both her guards are down, and Chain has that life support system thing. Chain then basically teaches the girl a lesson before she leaves.
That was awesome. Like she like goes invisible as the girl tries to shoot her, right? And then like gets right behind her and sticks her hand like right through her chest, and she's like, "How does it feel to like when I like pet your like myocardial something?" I don't know. It was like crazy. It was just a real power move.
Mm-hmm. Because the girl's like just like super power hungry and like thinks she's at the top, and like Chain just fucking mops the floor with her effortlessly. But anyways, then at the end of this, they meet back downstairs, and then Zed shows up at the end and then saves the three from a giant robot that started to attack them. Turns out he had a blood technique he could use to create a bubble around his head.
Reverse fishbowl.
Yeah. That's what it's called. Zed then starts to make some money as a street performer using his blood techniques, and that's how the episode ends.
Yeah, so all of that over just some Sennheiser headphones, which I can honestly relate to because I love Sennheiser headphones. I would literally rip them off somebody else.
I honestly, I've never heard of the brand, but I've not
good.
Done my research. I got my audio brands I really like is Polk. I have a soundbar, which is absolutely amazing. And my gaming headset I use for Xbox is Polk.
Oh, nice. I didn't know Polk made a gaming headset. That's cool.
They are fantastic. Because like when I play Fortnite, you really want to play with a headset because there's no radar. You can only hear footsteps and gunshots, and knowing the direction they're coming from, helps so much.
Yeah, I use some AKG headphones for Xbox because they're amazing at directional audio. Typically.
Oh, nice.
Just fun.
All right.
Next
episode 8. Desperate flight in the macro zone, sorry.
And fight, not flight.
Desperate fight.
You screwed up everything, Leo.
I pushed through that whole title.
It's okay.
Let me try again. Episode 8. Desperate fight in the macro zone, part 1.
Okay.
Woo.
Much better.
Leonardo gets robbed again and his money stolen again after he is shaken down again. But at the end of this one, he had a buddy with him who like kind of ran off or whatever. At the end, like a device falls from the sky and crashes into the back of his skull and like breaks into pieces. One of the pieces rolls towards him and introduces himself as a hyper doctor. Leonardo thinks the robot is the doctor, but then it corrects him and says he is over here. Leonardo has to use his God's eyes to even see the tiny flea-like doctor. Meanwhile, Klaus is escorting a high-priority prisoner named Dog Hummer at an art museum. So that's just random. It's just for later. But if you've watched season 1, you know who Hummer is. Mm-hmm. Leonardo's friend, who ran away when he got mugged, is self-loathing in the park, wishing he was bigger and stronger, when a mysterious creature thing shows up and says he can grant him this. Leonardo talks to the flea doctor who's searching for a bacteria that is a terrorist. The landlady shows up and asks Leonardo for his help in getting her cat stuck.
Her cat who was stuck.
Her cat that was stuck at the price of extending how long he has to pay his rent. Basically, the doctor gets to witness Leonardo using his god eyes with his monkey. Mm-hmm. So Zap is at a diner and runs into Leonardo's friend who he begs for money from. We then see Zap get thrown through the diner window and Leonardo's friend running off. His friend continues to grow bigger and stronger constantly.
Yeah.
The flea doctor manages to reassemble his weapon. Then they then go to Steven to see if he has any information that could help him locate the terrorist bacteria. Meanwhile, Leonardo's friend starts to go on a rampage and like tearing up the city and just all kinds of crazy stuff. So Claus is then taking the prisoner back when they come across Leonardo's friend, who is still getting bigger and bigger and bigger. They decide to let Hummer out of his cuffs and take on Leonardo's friend. We then find out his name is Riel. Riel.
Yeah.
The flea doctor also says that the bacteria he's looking for and anything you do to him will just keep making him get bigger and stronger. Claus gets Riel contained, and then Riel swells up and like this smaller version of him bursts out from his body. Hummer ends up sending Riel flying away with like a 100 fist punch is what he calls it. Riel lands, and when he stands up, he's like taller than some of the skyscrapers.
Yeah,
so
he's huge.
It's getting crazy.
So clearly they'll have to take him down in that second part of that episode.
But how? How do they do that?
I don't know. Probably with a monkey.
So you have a lot of good things to say about it, but you just can't get into it.
Yeah, it's just like, I don't know why. I think like this is clearly like Bones like saying like, we just want to draw some really cool shit. And every episode, that's what they do. They like animate and draw like really freaking awesome stuff because like this world allows them to do whatever the hell they want, essentially.
Yep. They have almost no rules in this world. So
yeah,
you turn to an animator and you go, do that thing you've always wanted to do.
Exactly. Like fit anything you want in here. Like, and like they do a lot of like nods to like modern culture because it's basically set in kind of modern times as well. So yeah, I don't know. Like it's funny. Oh yeah. There was like one nod in this episode where they talked about, like the double shit. Like it was like, I think the girl in the car was talking about like the 00 agents. And I was like, is she talking about like James Bond? And then she said like, yeah, we made it so like Daniel Craig shoots missiles out of his knees or something. I was like, what? Like they're talking about Daniel Craig? What the hell is going on in this show? So it's just like weird references like that. It's just all off the wall stuff. And like, I usually appreciate shows that are like a little bit more focused about like a narrative and like an idea they want to tell. But like, I can appreciate shows that are just like, let's just throw all the coolest ideas we have at the wall and like see how it goes.
That's exactly what Blockade. That's pretty much what season 1 was.
Yeah.
And I think season 2 took it a step farther.
For sure. Yeah. Yep. And it's beautiful to look at. So I'll enjoy it for that. Speaking of beautiful to look at though.
You got a crush on one of the girls?
I mean, mostly all of them, but yeah, of course, I have the biggest crush ever on Phos because she is voiced by Kumiko from Hibike Euphonium, so she's like my wife forever.
So I want to bring something up. I gotta pull it up real quick.
Oh no!
So one of our viewers, who I will retranslate his name because I had to translate it earlier because it's in Japanese.
Oh.
He informed us that yes, we know that gems are generalists. But the interesting thing is they all use masculine pronouns to each other.
Yes. Apparently. Though, like, sometimes they don't, though. Like, there's one... which episode is it in? I think it's in the 8th episode. No, where did I write it? There's, like, one point where, like, there's it's the 7th episode. Yeah, there's a gem introduced named Alexandrite, who the other girls are calling Alex Chan instead of no, they're calling him Alex San, which is like kind of masculine, and he's like, no, I want to be called Alex Chan. It's Alex Chan. The subs like translated as like, call me Lexi, don't call me Alex. So it's just like another instance of like the gems like having a fluid gender and like wanting to be called one thing, maybe like wanting to be referred to as a feminine way or a masculine way, depending on like how they feel. So like, even if they're always referred to as like masculine pronouns, it's just like, yeah, maybe that's just because they are like supposedly not human. They're like rocks, they're minerals. So I don't know if this show actually has anything like really it wants to say about gender or not. Like, it doesn't seem like it has like an informed philosophy about like the gender of these minerals or not. It just seems to like play around with it at different times with different characters.
Which is interesting because the Japanese language relies really heavily on male and female.
Yeah, for sure.
Pronouns, so yeah. But the commenter's name was Yang. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, for that bit of knowledge. Episode 7, Hibernation. the twins get put back together, and this is when Alex arrives demanding what the new Lunarian weapon was. She heard it was made of sapphire. The twins say to ask Phos, who was there to see the whole thing, but she has already run off because she feels guilty about not being able to do anything during the battle. And it's now winter, and the land is covered in snow. The girls are all preparing for hibernation by draping like sheets across this one room, and like basically just a sea of sheets. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's weird.
Phos asks if she even needs to sleep this year since she doesn't feel the least bit tired. Rutile finally says, "You're the one to fall asleep first every year and wake up last every year." You're the last person to be saying this. But then Phos responds with like, that the quack must have messed up her legs when she put them back together. But since there are only about 10 days of light during the winter, it becomes very tiring for everybody. And also the Lunarians only show up on the sunny days, so it makes them very predictable.
Yeah.
So what they do is they just lead the defenses up to Sensei and Antarcticite, who is usually in liquid form, but when the temperature drops, she solidifies, and that makes her... It does something interesting with her hardness. She's only a half a hardness higher than Phos.
Yeah.
But the constantly colder it gets, like I guess her hardness rises or whatever.
Yeah, she crystallizes.
But then we basically
more.
get a scene where she's the T1000 doing a T1000 out of the bath.
Yeah, she's like rising out of the bath and like holding onto the sides, and yeah, she totally looks like a T1000.
Yeah, it's pretty good. So really cool, and it just awesome visuals. Like you could have paused this scene just to look at the details. Mm-hmm. The girls also dress up in like pretty white dresses. They're all different to go to sleep.
I like Diamond, who's like, why are you dressing me in this? All we're gonna do is sleep. And like, I think it's
they're
Red.
Gonna get wrinkled.
Yeah, they're just gonna get wrinkled. And like Red Barrel, I think, is the one who's like crazy about fashion. She's like, no.
So like everybody's dress is slightly different. Everybody has changed their hairstyle to go to sleep.
Yeah.
And it's just like you could, I didn't pause it, but I could have, because everybody just like so different. Like there was a lot of detail put into this.
Yeah, it actually was a lot of detail, and they all looked very cute for sure.
Oh, for sure. But they all end up going on a sleep of basically a sea of white fabric in this room. At the end of the scene, Phos opens her eyes. We then get to see Antarcticite, who sports an all-white uniform with a black tie, which is the polar opposite, which is really cool.
I didn't notice that. That's true. Yeah. Yeah. She's got
because all the other girls wear black uniforms with white ties. She wears the opposite. At first, she seems kind of uptight, but then she asks Sensei if she can do their yearly tradition, and he's like, sure. And then she rushes forward and hugs him, so she has a softer side.
God damn.
But then she jumps when she sees Phos just behind a pillar, just judging her and eyeballing her. It's great. And it seems she just can't fall asleep. And so Sensei pairs the two up for the winter season. Phos seems to think she can't sleep because she feels awful about not being punished for freezing up in that previous battle.
Yeah.
So Antarcticite gives her one of her tasks so Phos can challenge herself. They travel to the sea that is frozen with all kinds of crazy looking sea floats. One of them looked particularly strange, and Antarcticite says that Sensei calls them sinners. It falls back into the ocean, and a giant glacier rises from the sea, sounding like some like whale / screeching, just like somebody went to the soundboard and just made something crazy is what they did.
Yeah, definitely. Like there was like definitely some like kettle boiling over in there and some like other weird noises. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The sounds they emit disturb the sleeping girls, so Antarcticite has to destroy them. The next day, Phos practices taking out one of the ice floes, but cracks herself comically. And it seems the girls will sleepwalk also, and it's dangerous, especially Bort in particular, she says. But if you cover them with a sheet, they go right back to sleep. So, okay. So we get a montage of the girls like doing all the chores that they're supposed to do. And then suddenly out of nowhere, one of the ice floes, where they're out there killing, like breaking them apart, ice floes starts to speak to Phos, who then is just like, looks at Antarcticite and she's like, yep, they're talking to me. I'm going insane. I can't do this anymore.
And she's like, no, that happens sometimes.
No, they do. And she says like, no, they talk sometimes, but she's like, we can't understand them. But Phos is like, what? No, I know what they're saying. So they go to Sensei and tell him, and Sensei says she will need to close her heart around the ice floes since they are just dregs of the past or something like that. It was kind of strange. Antarctica, who name keeps getting shorter as this episode goes on, then makes a comment that she wishes Phos could have arms that were like her legs, which would be stronger. But they go back to the ice floes, and the ice floes almost convince Phos to cut off her arms by sticking her arms in this one crack. But just at the last second, she stops and scrambles back, but then goes too far and slips into the water. Antarctica pulls her out quickly, but finds her arms missing.
Yeah, weird.
The flow also said something very cryptic about Cinnabar. It was something like, but then in the spring, Cinnabar will.
Yeah, it's like, if you can last through winter, Cinnabar will ... Something like that.
And then the episode just stops with Antarctica holding Phos with... She's missing her arms from about the elbows down. Yeah. Maybe mid-bicep. Mm-hmm. But that's the end of that episode.
So yeah, I was really surprised at the very beginning of the episode when the Amethyst twins turned out were not dead. They were able to recover like the pieces of their bodies. Because like I thought for sure, like when Sensei blew up like the platform at the end of last episode, that they had like blown up in that explosion. And that
no. I'm pretty sure they showed them raining down and like even collecting them.
Yeah, so they definitely showed like a quick thing with Bort like cutting them free at the beginning of this episode. And I was like, oh, okay, they survived. I was just surprised by that.
I knew they survived.
Oh, really? Oh, I wasn't. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. That's funny. You just read that scene in a different way than I do, and you obviously read it in the correct way.
Or you sneezed and missed the 1 second screen that told you they survived.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
So it seems like Phos's like agate legs have like imparted her the knowledge to understand the language that's coming from the microorganisms that are captured in these ice flows. At least that's the way I read it, because like we know that.
No, I read it the exact same way.
Yeah, limbs impart knowledge in this world. So like now that she has limbs that are come from like the underwater sea world, like the people who are like the flesh or whatever they're called. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense that she would understand that language. And she also understood the snail already, so maybe it's probably the same sea snail language or whatever.
Yeah, I just want to say, now that she's lost her arms, that's also more memories she's lost. So,
yeah, it was interesting. Like Sensei told her the ice flows don't speak of their own will. He was so sure about that, and like they only exacerbate the feelings of the minerals around them. So that offers up the possibility that like maybe they really don't. It
totally plays into like. Phos wanting to be stronger and have stronger arms.
Exactly. So like that's coming from inside Phos, and it may be coming from like the agate part of her, like which is separate from the rest of her body, maybe wanting to like increase its power through her, like the vessel that is her body. Like, so I don't know if it's like just her own mind or if it's her own mind being corrupted by the agate legs that she has. So that's just very interesting in what's going to happen with that as it goes forward.
Yep. You ready to move on to episode 8?
Yes. So episode
Before
8.
you start it, I want to say I think I found a very large loophole.
I'm scared. I'm horrified. No, it'll be fine. Well, when you get to it, just let me know. So episode 8 is Antarcticite. So Antarcticite dives into the water to try to recover Phos's arms that got snapped off by whatever was down there. But she can't find them anywhere. And like as she's going down, the ice flows start like smashing into each other. And she gets her hands stuck between two chunks of ice crashing. And she loses it, but is able to recover it before it gets completely like destroyed. And she just sinks to the bottom, like really depressed that she couldn't save Phos's arms.
And one of her things is like, "How dare you take my memories of Sensei from me?"
Yeah, that's true. Like when her hand was about to float off, she was like frantic to get it because like, she really loves that little time of year that she spends with Sensei, and like she doesn't want to lose her memories of that. They return to Sensei, and Antarcticite is beside herself. Sorry, she cries in his arms, like having never made a mistake like this before, basically. And also, I think so she can just get another hug with him. But Sensei tells Phos, like, "All right, what you should do now is search the cord shore for either to find your arms or to find material suitable to rebuild them." because like the Chord Shore is where all of these minerals were born, apparently. So before, I know what you're going to get to in a second, but so Phos jokes are on point during this section. Like she's like, my arms are probably raising up in defeat right about now. Like when she's like talking to Sensei, and like
also when this scene happens, when they first arrive and Sensei sees Phos without her arms, his face just cracked me up, dude.
It's so good. And then like they're like, you should go to the Chord Shore, and you get a shot of Phos, and she's just like standing there motionless for a second, and then she very quickly like takes her twig arms and points at them, and she's like, where's the Chord Shore again? And they're just like, oh, you idiot. It's like to the southeast or whatever. So yeah, Phos and Antarcticite like trudge through the blizzardy like landscape to arrive at the Chord Shore. And Antarcticite like points out this exposed like crag of the landscape, and it kind of like demonstrates the process of like inorganic organisms like forming minerals over millennia that eventually form into these like gems. And they even see one like being born out of like the mountainside. Like it's almost like a full like humanoid body, but it's like born too soon, and it just falls to the ground and smashes apart. And Antarcticite tells Phos like, yeah, it's only very rarely that like a fully formed gem is born like one of us. So
yeah, and this is where my loophole starts, where I'm like, why don't the Lunarians just go to the Chord Shore and do their harvesting there instead of battling the other girls the entire time?
So I would say, yeah, they should definitely do that. Like, I don't know.
I think both parties win.
Yeah, well, I mean, like that would limit the well, no, I guess they're kind of immortal, so it wouldn't limit the population of the girls. But I think the reason is like part of it is like when Phos and Antarcticite are there, they like Antarcticite like sweeps away some of the snow with like a wind blast from her like blade, and there's only gold and platinum there. So I assume the Lunarians are kind of greedy, and they want many of those other like rarer minerals as well, and so that's probably why they go after the girls. Yeah. So they only find gold and platinum, which are not suitable for Phos at all, especially gold, because it's malleable and it's also very heavy, and which are both like bad for her.
Yeah, they're soft and heavy, which is not good at all.
But for whatever reason, like Antarcticite like tries to attach the gold to Phos's arms just to see if her inclusions will take to it anyway. And Phos is like, I don't know, this is really heavy. But then the gold starts to like melt and shift into a liquid form, and it starts sprouting through Phos like tentacles everywhere. And Antarcticite just looks on like horrified, and then Lunarians appear. So back at home, Sensei sees that the skies have parted very suddenly and realizes that they might be in danger, and is about to head off to the Chord Shore. But like right when he walks outside, there's like a huge cloud of Lunarians before him, and he attacks them. Like he uses like an attack to blow them up. But when he does, like there's like, I don't know what exactly happened, but like this white smoke is like floating around his hands and his body, like trapping him. So he just can't get away, at least not easily. Until he like finds a way to get out of this trap that they set.
Yeah, he's like, oh, this is a clever trap, but it's still not enough to stop me. Exactly. It's just enough to slow him down temporarily.
Yeah, it just slows him down just enough. So meanwhile, Antarcticite is pulling some sweet snowboard moves on her serrated blade atop like the Lunarian platform as she's like fighting them. And she like cuts like the big one in half, but it's another one of those new types of big Lunarians that have like stuff inside them. So she lowers her guard for just a second because she hears a noise coming from like Sensei at the home base, and
she hears that explosion.
Yeah, the explosion. And then a lone archer just shoots off one of her hands, and it's picked away by like a tentacle arm coming out of the large Lunarian that has like fish hooks at the end. And also,
I'm gonna be honest, this is fishing line with fish hooks and Christmas tree ball ornaments. Yeah. That's what this is.
Yeah, it has these like Christmas tree ball ornaments that would be like the bobbers on your fishing line or something, and like they turn out to be grenades, because like Antarcticite like loses her blade first because it's pulled away by these tentacles, and then like one of these like things like explodes with like the sword, and then she's in a desperation to like retrieve her hand and her memories of Sensei yet again. So she ends up in like a tug of war against like several of these like tentacle arms, and ends up pulling the pin on another one of the grenades. It just blows everything to pieces, and she falls to the ground, and she's kind of like,
I thought she, like you said, they were in a tug of war, and then she eventually just like pulled the lower half off its foundation.
Oh, she did do that, but then she won the tug of war for sure. But then one of like the grenades, the pin came out at the same time, which blew it up. And so she falls to the ground, and she's like kind of like broken and cracked because of the tug of war and like falling and everything. And what was I going to say? She crawls over to Phos, who had been like in a liquid like gold like jail, and now she's just in like a solid block of gold, except it's liquid on the inside, so she's just like floating in the liquid gold on the inside of this block. She's like, get me the fuck out of here. Like kind of basically. And so Antarcticite like starts like banging on the gold block to try and get her out, and like Phos is just like bitching like, please don't scratch my head, like just be Phos, you know. And then like eventually she calms down, and she says to Antarcticite, you know what, I'm glad you're still. And then she gets cut off as an arrow just rips straight through Antarcticite's neck, shattering her completely into pieces. And as she's like about to scream, like Phos is about to scream, Antarcticite puts her like finger up to her mouth to say shh, like tell her to stay quiet so she doesn't let them know that she's here. And she quietly asks her like, keep Sensei company and take care of Winter for me. And Phos like sees that the Lunarians are coming down to collect the little pieces of Antarcticite, and she the golden arms are like covering her own mouth, like inside of the golden block, and she's just like pleading with her new golden arms, like, please, like fight back, let me do something. But she can't do anything as like Antarcticite gets carried off. But finally she's had enough, and she just screams out, do what I want, you worthless piece of junk. And then the gold block expands out like a huge flower opening up, and Phos is at the center, and she's just like enraged, and she can sort of control the gold, which lashes out at one of the Lunarians, decapitating it. And at first it's like too heavy for her legs, which start cracking as she tries to stand up. But the liquid gold like flows through all the cracks in her body, like strengthening her. And she starts to run after the Lunarians with like her weird, like elongated, like gold arms. And she can't really catch up with them, but she like takes like a sword and like throws it after them as hard as she can. And it just misses.
Well, it doesn't go far enough.
It doesn't go far enough, but like it looked like it had a shot. Like it went pretty far. And Sensei fortunately arrives to catch her, because like she actually like built like a bridge of liquid gold in the sky as she was trying to like reach out for the Lunarians who got away.
Yeah, you even see Sensei, he throws his magic or whatever at the Lunarians, but it doesn't even reach them in time either.
Yeah, it's just too far. He couldn't get there in time. And so he catches Phos as she falls to the ground, and he says like, I'm the only one to blame for Antarcticite suffering here. And then that's basically it. It's like a really sad ending. Like Antarcticite gets taken away, and there's like a sad vocal insert song that plays over the credits. That was kind of nice. And in this case, it looks like Antarcticite, maybe not dead, but she is definitely gone, unlike the Amethyst twins.
Well, none of them ever die. They just get taken away.
Exactly. They get taken to the moon to be used however the Lunarians want. So,
yeah, however they use them.
But yeah, you're right about, maybe they could set up some kind of mutual agreement here. Like, take some of the minerals from the Cord Shore, but like, just don't kill us who are like actually like living beings.
Yeah, that's my... I wonder if they're going to talk about, if they're even going to dive into that a little bit.
Maybe.
It'd be interesting. It just, I don't know. So, I mean, the show does everything so perfectly. Then it just does this, like, throws this really weird, large and obvious loophole out of nowhere at me. And I was just like, okay.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. I'm still loving this show. It's still gorgeous.
The show's great.
And I just love Phos. She's just cracks me up constantly. Like, she cracks me up as much as the girls from Girls Last Tour crack me up, if not more, just because I love her stupid personality.
Both shows do a great job of just like hiding this comedy just in plain sight.
For sure.
which is really good.
And it manages to be like a kind of fan servicey show without like pissing me off. Just because they're gems. I don't know, you know?
I'll agree. I'm a hips and butt guy. I don't really care about boobs, so yeah. But like they do it, and they don't do it very flash. They don't do it flashy at all.
For sure. Yeah.
Even when they're in the robes, like in the robes, they're less flashy than they are in their short shorts.
Yeah, let's be honest. This was an anime sleepover episode. Just a really good one.
Yeah, it looked pretty fantastic. That was the last episode, but
yeah, I think that wraps it up for weeks 7 and 8.
All right, you ready to play some Fortnite? You promised me.
Okay, fine.
Yes.
So thank you for listening. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe to us on YouTube to get updates on new podcasts or videos. We've been getting some new subscribers lately, and it makes us very happy. And follow us on Twitter at Nerdom and Other Nonsense, at Nerdom and Other for updates as well. And my brand confusion, Leo. It's so confused.
Yeah, and also the positive comments; those are welcomed. Plus, the informative ones are very welcomed also.
Yeah, I love when people engage with us and correct us because, like, hey, we're just out here trying to understand these Japanese Chinese cartoons, and it's really hard sometimes.
Japanese Chinese cartoons.
So anyway, we will see you next week.
Later, everybody.
Peace.